When AEW first announced that they were running Wembley Stadium, there were a lot of people who said, "What are you, crazy? You're insane." AEW has never run a stadium show before. AEW, prior to today, had never run a show outside of North America. And you're going to go fill up Wembley Stadium. I thought that maybe they would get 60,000 people in the building, and that would be a smashing success. And there were other people who thought, nah, they could do 70, they could do 80, they could do 90. What AEW did today, I don't think should be minimized, because we are so accustomed to WWE going out there every year for WrestleMania and some of these Saudi shows, and they pack these large stadiums in. And for so long, WWE was the only wrestling organization who could go out and do that sort of thing outside of New Japan at the Tokyo Dome every year. And even at the Tokyo Dome, they don't get those types of crowds. What AEW did today was they not only set their own all-time attendance record for an AEW event, but they also, according to Nigel McGuinness, they set the new record, worldwide record, for largest paid attendance for a professional wrestling show ever. It's very important to put that word paid in there, lest we offend all the people who remember Collision in Korea. We don't want to disturb that record, when they had 150,000 people and 190,000 people, right, back-to-back nights, who were forced to go to the show. But that's what Nigel McGuinness came out tonight during the show and announced. He climbed into the ring, and he said that there were 81,035 people in the stands at Wembley Stadium, an all-time company record. Tony Khan earlier today, he tweeted that All In London has officially set the worldwide record for the most paid fans ever at any pro wrestling event. Thank you, everyone who made this possible. And that is something to be celebrated, because it is an incredible accomplishment for a company that has not even been in existence for a full 5 years. They are still less than 5 years old. And for them to go out and do what they did tonight at Wembley Stadium and pack the house in the way that they did should be applauded. And it really is, it feels in many ways like sort of a new landmark record for the company to build upon. Can they do it again? Well, we're going to find out, because at the very end of the show tonight, they announced that they're bringing All In back to Wembley again next year. Sunday, August 25th, 2024. All In is coming back to Wembley Stadium in London, England. And I will tell you now, nobody is happier about that than Bryan Danielson. You know that Bryan Danielson is the happiest man in the world, because that means he gets to actually be on the show next year. And maybe we'll actually get Nigel McGuinness in the ring for that one, because that was the match that Nigel said would get him out of retirement. So I guess for those of you who were disappointed we didn't get that match this year, there's always next year. But that also means they're probably going to be running All In and All Out back-to-back weekends again next year, which I still think is a mistake. But let's talk about this show, because now that it's over, it's in the books. All In, I thought overall was an excellent show. There was nothing on this show that will stand out as an all-time classic. There was nothing on this show at the level of Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay from Forbidden Door 2 months ago. We have had other AEW pay-per-views that have these classic matches on them that people will look back upon years from now, I think, and say, that's one of the best matches I've ever seen. There's been more than a few of those on AEW pay-per-views over the years. I don't think there was anything on this show that really is going to stand out as the match of the year when this year is over. Having said that, there were loads of very good matches. Some better than others, but there were loads of very good matches up and down the card tonight. And then you factor in the spectacle of it all, having the 81,000 people there. I thought it looked great on tele. I can only imagine what it was like being inside the stadium. I had a little bit of FOMO going on here, not being part of the event itself, but very good matches on the show. And I don't know if they can replicate this again next year, just in terms of not even just the attendance, but just the overall feel. Because it felt like, going into this show, it felt like a happening. And I think that's why a lot of people bought tickets. They just, before they even knew what the card was, not one match had been announced. And the majority of the tickets that they moved for this event were already sold off. So it actually had very little to do with any of the matches on the show. So I don't know if they can replicate that feeling again next year. One thing I learned is I will not underestimate them, because, again, I didn't think they would get 81,000 people in that building. So We'll find out about that. But the main event, it was all built around the main event. MJF defending the AEW World Championship against Adam Cole. This has been the best story that they have been telling in this company now for a few months now. And it was an unexpected success. It's one of those things that you can't predict. It just sort of happens organically. When Tony Khan first came up with this storyline for MJF and Adam Cole, there was no way that he envisioned that it would get to this point where people would take to it the way that they have. And having them as tag team partners, and now after tonight, tag team champions, because they're the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions now. And they would become best friends, and people would be into it as much as they are. They'd be selling t-shirts like crazy, and apparently, moving ratings on television. There's no way he could have known it would have taken off the way that it did. So I understand if Tony Khan is hesitant to kill his top angle by not having one guy turn on the other. We were all waiting for it. We were all watching to see what was going to happen. This was the most unpredictable match on the show because there were multiple paths that he could have taken with the finish of this match. And we were all waiting for it. They teased it, and it never came. In the end, friendship won out. MJF is still the AEW World Champion, and he and Adam Cole, at least by the looks of it at the end of the show, are still best friends. And now they're also tag team champions as well. So they're bound by those belts regardless. But he opted not to have one guy stab the other in the back. Now they have another pay-per-view in less than a week. Actually, no, it is a week I'm thinking of Payback. So we had 2 pay-per-views next weekend. Next Sunday, we got one more pay-per-view from AEW. They could easily have one guy turn on the other in Chicago next week. And it could very well be that Tony Khan just wants to spread things out a little bit and save that for his next show. But as far as tonight goes, in the end, friendship won out. The two of them were still buddies. They're still best friends. The match itself was, I think, it told a tremendous story. And I know not everybody is going to be into it. There was a false finish. There was some interference. Roderick Strong came out during the match. There was some melodramatic parts of the match. I thought they told a tremendous story in this match. And they had the fans hanging on to every spot, every ref bump, every false finish, every near fall, every tease of one guy turning possibly, and then they didn't. They had the crowd. They had 80,000 people who were into it from start to finish. So I thought they did a tremendous job with the main event. I think that was the best match. I think that was the best thing on the entire show. And it's your main event, so it should be. So I thought they knocked it out of the park with that. Interestingly, we had a special appearance tonight, multiple times, from Mercedes Moné, former Sasha Banks, who broke her ankle a few months ago. And as far as anybody knows, she is still hurt. She is not yet cleared to wrestle, although we don't know. She's been very hush-hush about the injury and what her status is. But they showed her on screen multiple times throughout the entire show, from the pre-show right on through the second to last match when they cut to another shot of her. They must have shown her on camera at least 4 times, which by the time the third or fourth shot of Mercedes popped up on my screen, I said, okay, she's signed. Either she's signed or she has some kind of agreement with her existing New Japan agreement that she's going to be working AEW, because there's no way they show this woman on screen that many times and have the announcers acknowledge her unless they know that they are bringing her in to do something. So they may not have made the official announcement yet. We haven't gotten the graphic that she's all elite. As far as I know, she may still be under contract with New Japan, Bushy Road, whatever. But there's no doubt in my mind that Mercedes is coming in for at least one match. It's only a matter of when and who does she step into the ring with, because we have a new women's champion. Her name is Saraya. And in case you forgot, there's a little bit of history there between Mercedes and Saraya, going back to when she was injured and she was forced into retirement. There's a story there that they could tell, but there's so many other potential matches that they could do with her. We'll have to wait and see. But not a doubt in my mind, they do not show her on screen as many times as they did if they don't know that they have her coming in for a match. Now, I'm going to talk about this entire show, and there's a lot of good stuff to get through and a lot of stuff that I really liked. But it wouldn't be a big night for AEW without there being some degree of drama. This is unfortunately a recurring theme with this company. And a lot of the drama centers around one man. And that one man is CM Punk. We had drama even as recently as a few weeks ago after Collision. There was a whole thing. He made comments about Hangman Page. There were other stories that came out. Controversy seems to always follow this man. You would think that that wouldn't be the case after he came back, but it just seems to be continuing on and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. So on this, the biggest night in the history of AEW, CM Punk wrestled Samoa Joe. Defended his real world championship on this show. And that is not what people are going to be talking about when it comes to CM Punk. Because Sean Ross Sapp popped over on Twitter during the show and said there was some sort of altercation backstage during the show involving Jack Perry and CM Punk. Now, for those of you who do not know the story, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. I didn't even talk about this on the podcast when everybody else was reporting on it because I didn't think it was a big deal. Now it's blown up into something apparently where you have to acknowledge it because who knows what the fallout from this is going to be. The Cliff Notes version is this. Jungle Boy had a vacation plan. This is going back a few months now, maybe about 2 months. Jungle Boy had a vacation planned, evidently. And he wanted to do a pre-taped angle involving a car to write him off television, to give him a week off, 2 weeks off, whatever it was. And he wanted to do an angle where real glass was involved. Now, I am not a fan of using glass in wrestling. I'm not a fan of using real glass in wrestling. I think it's stupid. I think the potential for injury just makes it ridiculous to use it when you can use other stuff, you can use gimmick stuff. He wanted to use real glass, and the story is that CM Punk told him no. And he may have dressed him down, possibly in front of other people. I don't know how many people were around exactly when this allegedly occurred, but CM Punk was the voice of reason in this situation and says, no, it's too risky. You're not going to use real glass. And apparently Jack was not very happy about that. Now, I side with CM Punk in that situation. See, that's a good piece of veteran advice that you should probably take. If somebody is telling you that you shouldn't use real glass because of the potential for injury, you shouldn't be using real glass. Just go ask Bill Goldberg how that worked out for him. Now, I didn't think this was much of a story. Like I said, I didn't talk about it because it happened 2 months ago. Who gives a shit? Who cares? During his match on the pre-show, he defended his FTW title against Hook. There was a moment in that match where Jungle Boy looked into the camera because there was a car. They were wrestling on top of a car. And he looked into the camera and he made a comment about, hey, look, real glass. Go cry me a river. Now, it was clear what that was in reference to, if you knew the story. But I didn't think anything of it. I honestly, when he said that, my first thought wasn't that he was taking a shot at CM Punk. Honest to God, my first thought wasn't, oh boy, he took a shot at CM Punk. My first thought was he was poking fun at the reports online because it blew up into such a big story. And it was such a quick thing and he moved on. Sean Ross Sapp on Fightful Select said, details are few and far between at the moment, but we have learned that Jack Perry and CM Punk had a altercation shortly before Punk went to the ring for his All In match. Jack was on right before him. He did a spot, the one that I just mentioned. We're told Perry wasn't happy with how the situation was relayed publicly by those close to CM Punk. We have not heard of the extent to which the altercation escalated, but it got physical and it involved a lot of yelling. PW Insider had more details a little bit later on. This is from Mike Johnson. Said, as we reported in the Elite section earlier, there was an altercation between Punk and Jack Perry prior to All In London going on the air. One version of the story is that there had been a previous conversation between the two about Perry doing a glass spot. So again, he's referring to what happened a few months ago. As far as tonight backstage, the two came across each other. The prevailing story making the rounds is that Perry confronted Punk, leading to the two shoving each other. We know for sure that they absolutely had words backstage. As we previously stated, from there, the first story was that Punk hit Perry. However, the version that is becoming most shared backstage is that Perry was caught in a choke. We were working to clarify, but the belief is that Perry got the worst of the altercation. Punk is still backstage at Wembley Stadium. We are told that Perry was asked to leave, and he is no longer at the stadium. As you might imagine, this certainly won't calm the waters backstage between the different factions. Perry is firmly part of the elite camp. AEW has another pay-per-view next week in Chicago with everyone slated to once again be backstage. You know, Tony Khan was making the rounds this week, and he talked to the Hollywood Reporter. And he was asked by the Hollywood Reporter about some of the animosity backstage between some of the members of his roster. And part of what Tony Khan said was, there may be some of them that don't get along with each other backstage or on TV. It's not ideal, but it's a reality, and I can't make everyone get along. When I heard that quote, obviously Tony Khan cannot make everybody backstage like each other. Not everybody in the wrestling world is going to like each other. Not everybody in the locker room who works for the same company has to like each other. I've worked with people over the years that I can't stand. Doesn't mean that I talk shit behind their back. It doesn't mean that I bump shoulders with them when we're going to the water cooler. It doesn't mean I put my leg out to trip them. I steer clear of them. I don't deal with them. But we can coexist. Wrestling, it's no different. Not everybody is exchanging Christmas cards. What that sounds to me, though, when he says that is, well, not everybody likes each other, and there isn't a whole lot I can do about that. Bullshit. Bullshit. Of course there is. The problem is that he doesn't do anything. And when you don't do anything, shit like this is going to continue to happen. So now Jungle Boy is no longer a boy. Now he's a man. His balls have dropped. And he's kind of feeling, he's feeling himself here. And if this version of the story is true, he's the one who instigated something with Punk backstage. And Punk was simply reacting. And it sounds like Jungle Boy may have gotten choked out for his troubles. So in that situation, I don't really blame CM Punk so much, although he should know better than to be getting into it with this guy tonight of all nights. I think it is fucking embarrassing that anybody would decide to make tonight of all nights. This is the biggest show in the history of this company. Everybody should be all smiles. Everybody should be laser focused on making this the best possible show that it can be. The biggest night in AEW history. And you have some punk behind the scenes, and I'm not talking about Punk himself. You have some punk behind the scenes who decides, you know what? He's bothered by some comments that were made. I'm going to go make an issue out of it tonight of all nights. Why would you do that? Why of all nights? And in this way, would you decide, you know what? I'm going to go inflame things even more. So it sounds like Punk was just defending himself and responding to something that he did. If that turns out to be true, and I assume it must be if they sent him away and not Punk. Apparently they sent him out of the building. Then he should get a 30-day vacation to go cool his jets. And Tony Khan can go have a conversation with him about how to conduct himself. Because that's ridiculous. First half of the show, all that's being reported, instead of focusing on exactly what's going on here on the show, is trying to get the details, another backstage altercation, another day in All Elite Elementary, everybody. It's embarrassing. This continues to happen, and it will continue to happen if that's the attitude that Tony Khan is going to take. Well, I can't make everybody like each other, so I guess my hands are tied. Like Darby Allin tonight had his hands tied behind his back. I guess there's nothing I can do. Taking a very hands-off approach, when you do that, stuff like this continues to happen. But drama just seems to follow CM Punk around wherever he goes. It's unbelievable. So we'll see if there's any repercussions for the people involved. We are a week away from another big show in Chicago. It doesn't sound in this case like this was something Punk himself instigated. Again, it's a bad look, though, for him to be getting into it with somebody in the back. Again, tonight of all nights. This is your AEW All In 2023 review. I am the Solomonster. Thank you for joining me here for what is going to be a big review for one of AEW's biggest nights of the year. Like and subscribe if you are new to the channel. Hi. You can hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. Super chats are open. You see them popping up on your screen. We got a whole bunch of them coming in. I get to read your messages later. So if you want to support and you want to drop a super chat, you'll see the donation amounts in the description below for the special ones. Also, I got to give a big shout out. Got to give a big ass shout out to Boots. Boots, he's been putting the boots to everyone's asses here so far this afternoon. He has so far gifted 80 channel memberships. 80. We have 80 brand new members of our family here on the channel thanks to Boots. Unbelievable. Has blown me away. And the Winston Slip, he also gifted a membership. So guys, thank you very much. I appreciate that more than you can imagine. And also, we are going to be doing a little something special later on because we get to do a contest. WrestleRumble.com, we're giving away a replica AEW World Championship belt. That's coming up later on in the stream. Randomly, one winner will be chosen. It might be you. If you got in on the contest, it could very well be you. So I'm going to be picking a winner later on in the stream. The stadium. Let's talk about Wembley Stadium here because it looked tremendous on TV, right? It was all filled in. They had these wide crowd shots. They have the roof open. Thankfully, they had nice weather. I don't believe it rained. I know over there they worry a lot about rain. But it did not rain. Everything seemed to work out great. They had Machine Head by Bush as the official theme song for the event. And I got to give a shout out to Chris Jester. Take a look at this. This was from the pre-show, from the very first match on the pre-show, third row ringside. That is Chris holding up a Sound Off sign, always representing the Sound Off worldwide. You guys are from London to Riyadh and every place in between. I fucking love you guys for that. That was awesome. So that was on camera all night. And I appreciate that a lot. So Chris, who may be chiming in here, I don't know, he's probably still trying to make his way out of the stadium. But Chris, that was awesome. Thank you for that. We had the 0 hour pre-show. And when the pre-show opened, it was with the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles. It was MJF and Adam Cole. Better Than You, Baby, challenging Aussie Open for their titles. Excalibur, Taz, and Tony Schiavone were the announced team. Cole and MJF, they came out together. MJF was smacking hands with the fans on his way to the ring. Interestingly, Adam Cole was not. He had his arms outstretched, posing, but he did not slap hands like MJF did. MJF looked like more of a babyface here than Adam Cole did. Before they could strike their double pose, Aussie Open attacked them from behind. I was wondering if they would save that for later in the show, not wasting the pop from the initial Adam Cole baby. So they had them get attacked, cut them off, save that for later on in the show. So they kept it simple. And they played it very safe here in this match as far as the things that they did, as they should, because you want to minimize the risk of injury. The last thing Tony Khan could afford is an injury to MJF or Adam Cole going into the main event. That would have been a disaster. So they kept it very simple. They teased a dive spot with MJF, but he did not do it. Again, they saved that for the main event. MJF was isolated early in the match. Cole kept trying to make the tag, but MJF couldn't make it over. He wanted the kangaroo kick, and Kyle Fletcher put a stop to that. Finally, MJF made the hot tag to Cole. He ran wild with some pump kicks and some clotheslines. Fletcher avoided the boom, not the backstabber, though. Cole and MJF called for the double clothesline. Davis saved his partner. So Davis and Fletcher, they hit a couple of thrust kicks on MJF, and then they hit their Aussie Arrow for a near fall. Some friendly fire from Aussie Open came after that. MJF finally hit a double kangaroo kick to both of them to take down the champions. And the crowd lost their minds for the kangaroo kick. See, this is the payoff for building these things up. These silly moves and these silly spots. They've been building them up on television. It was all for the big payoff here. So as soon as he hit that kangaroo kick, the whole place came unglued. So MJF was all amped up, so much so he did the Ultimate Warrior rope shake. I mean, he was feeling it. He was feeling it. Finally, MJF and Cole, they hit the double clothesline on Fletcher, folded him up, and they got the 3 count to win the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles. A simple match. I thought it was a fun match, though. Surprising finish. I was not expecting a title change here. And I was also waiting for Roderick Strong to show up. They saved him for later. There was no Roddy. There was no Kingdom. There was no interference of any kind. They played it straight. So I thought it was a fun way to kick off the pre-show. Now, after the match, they went back to their panel. They had a panel of Renee Paquette, Anthony Ogogo, Kip Sabian, and Paul White. And as they were talking, they cut to a crowd shot, and they showed Mercedes Moné. This is the first shot of her, first of many shots of her throughout the night. Obviously, they had her up on the big screen as well because she got a huge cheer, huge reaction from the crowd in Wembley. She was there as a fan. I think she was there with Kevin, what's his name? Kevin Undergaro, I believe, who I think is married to Maria Menounos. So she was sitting with him. But she was there as an observer, just as a fan to watch the show. Then we had Jack Perry against Hook for the FTW Championship. This was the first time that the FTW title was being defended outside of the United States. And you had to know that Taz was probably sitting there like a proud papa, watching his son walk out in front of 80,000 people. He wasn't selling it, but you know that he was feeling it. Jim Ross came out to replace Tony Schiavone on the call for the match. Perry rode out to the stage in a limousine, and he was promptly met by Hook, who wasn't waiting around for him in the ring. He left the ring, he came down the aisle, and they started going at it. FTW rules basically means anything goes, falls count anywhere. So they fought on top of the limousine. Perry hit a brainbuster on the roof, and Hook then rolled down onto the hood of the limo. So Jungle Boy, he starts to mock RVD, and he starts doing the Rob Van Dam pose like this. He's getting good heat for it. And he proceeded to hit a rolling thunder off the roof onto the hood. And then he rolled off the hood onto the floor. This is the spot where he got up, he looked into the camera, and he made the comment about, hey, look, real glass, go cry me a river. Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
We're having a party here on the street.
Oh my God. Fahad just dropped in with a $226 super chat. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know. I'm just on the pre-show. I'm talking about the 0 hour here. And I look over and I see myself dancing on screen. Poorly, by the way, but nonetheless, that's how I dance. $226 from Fahad. Holy shit. Fahad, you got me so excited, man. I feel like I want to go fight CM Punk. I want to go pick a fight with CM Punk backstage now. I'm so amped up. Holy fucking shit. Fahad, thank you very much, brother. All just to say, enjoyed the show. Keep up the great work, Solo. With support like that, you make it easy. So, Fahad, I salute you. Wow. You knocked me for a loop here, man. Wow. So, as I was saying, Jungle Boy, he looked into the camera. This is where he made the comment where he said, hey, he's pointing at the windshield of the limo. And he says, hey, look, real glass. And he said, go cry me a river. Little did we know at that point what that was going to cause backstage later on. So he wasted too much time. And when he got back on the hood, Hook grabbed him and he took him over for a fisherman suplex and dropped him right on the car windshield. And he shattered the windshield. You know, Jack wanted real glass. He got real glass. He had glass embedded in his back. His arm was all sliced up. He was bleeding from the arm. So if you had first blood on your bingo card here on the pre-show, you win the prize. Both men finally went to ringside. Perry hit a draping DDT off the barricade to regain control. In the ring, Jack placed a trash can in front of Hook. In one corner, he went to the opposite corner and climbed up to the top. He was going to do the RVD coast to coast. And he teased it And then instead, he just jumped down and he flipped off the crowd. And he got big heat for that. He's definitely getting more comfortable as a heel. Little did we know that he would also turn into a heel behind the scenes. But he's definitely getting more comfortable on screen in this role as a heel. He got really good heat here in this match. So Hook tried fighting back. Perry hit rolling, bridging suplexes for a couple of near falls. He tried a moonsault on top of a trash can. Hook, though, moved out of the way. And he leveled Perry with a lariat and a trash can shot to the skull. So Hook starts clubbing him in the head a few times. And he applied red rum. Jack tried to fight out of it, but he couldn't do it. And he tapped out, and Hook regains the FTW championship. I thought it was a fine brawl. I would have saved the title change in the match for All Out next weekend, but they wanted to give the kid a big moment in front of a big crowd. So I can't fault them for that. This was fun for what it was. And again, we know what followed. Unfortunately, we would find out later what would follow. My God. What the fuck is going on? Wait a minute. Excuse me?
We're having a party here on the street. We're Barry Horowitz at. Where is it?
Oh my. Am I reading this correctly? Am I reading this correctly? ABK? I got to rub my eyes here just to make sure I'm not having double vision and I'm looking at this the wrong way. ABK. Jeez. ABK just dropped $5 shy of a $500 super chat. $494 super chat from ABK. I don't know what's going on here. What the fuck is going on here? ABK, no message. No message. Just a $500 super chat. And I just ended the pre-show. We're about to dive into the main card now. We are about to dive into the main card. Hey, you know, AEW set their all-time gate record tonight for All In. I think I may be setting my gate record here on YouTube tonight. This is unbelievable. I don't know what I did to deserve that, but ABK, man, fuck, I'll give you 2 salutes for that. Holy shit. Oh, man. You know what? Wasn't going to have steak tonight. I think I might have steak tonight. I might just treat myself to some steak tonight. I think I might. Fuck, man. I'm telling you, between this and the sign in the crowd tonight, man, front and center at Wembley, you guys are blowing me away. You guys are blowing me away. Let's get to the main card, shall we? Let's kick this fucking thing off already. CM Punk, the real world champion, defended his championship here against Samoa Joe. Now, apparently, by this point, the altercation backstage had already taken place. So now CM Punk is coming out for his second match of the night. He already has 1 win under his belt, a chokeout victory over Jungle Jack. So now he's out here for match number 2 with Samoa Joe. Nigel McGuinness at this point, he joined Jim Ross and Excalibur on the call. And let me mention this about Nigel here. Nigel McGuinness posted a photo of himself in his wrestling gear earlier today in his hotel room, and he was in his wrestling gear. It looked to me like this was maybe new gear that he had made up in the event that he actually wrestled on this show. And he was in great shape. He looked as if he could jump in the ring tonight and have a match if he wanted to. And he was just showing us that, you know, I was always ready, but I'm happy to be doing commentary here tonight in front of 80,000 people. If Bryan Danielson did not break his arm at Forbidden Door, there's a very good chance that Nigel McGuinness would have been in that gear on the show tonight wrestling Bryan Danielson. There was some talk about maybe doing Kenny Omega against Danielson. Maybe that would have been the match, but if not, I think Bryan Danielson against Nigel McGuinness would have been the match tonight. Because Nigel has said that's the one match, that's the one opponent that would get him out of retirement and back in the ring. And now that they've announced All In is coming back to Wembley next August, I think there's a very good chance that we may get Danielson and Nigel at next year's show. There was a sign in the crowd that said, as Punk made his entrance and came to the ring, there was a sign in the crowd that said, the best in the world at being a bitch. I don't know if Punk saw the sign or not. If he did, perhaps he would have gone after said person. So I guess he didn't. Crowd was loudly pro-Joe. Punk had some support, but they were clearly more in favor of Samoa Joe. A few minutes in, Punk grabbed the top rope. He pulled himself over for a dive, and Samoa Joe just very casually walked away. My favorite spot in wrestling. The nope. He noped right out of the way, and CM Punk, he crashed and burned. He splatted on the ground. And then Joe did the jerking off hand motion. Joe was having fun, man. He had a smile on his face. He started to get the crowd to do the ole, ole, ole chants. He looked like he was having the time of his life out there. So Punk came back with a Hurricane Rana attempt from the apron. Tried to take Joe over, but Joe held him. And he swung him into the bottom part of the announce desk, which broke. Because it looked like it was made of some cheap fucking cardboard or something. But it was a good visual, you know. He smacked him against the table. The bottom part of the table broke. Punk was basically underneath the table. Joe looked back at him. He flipped him off. And again, the crowd let out a big cheer. So I especially, there was another sign in the crowd. I mentioned the other sign in the crowd. I should mention this one too. There was another sign in the crowd that said, Pepsi is a soft drink. There were actually quite a few clever signs in the crowd that may have triggered poor Phil here on this show. Punk came up, busted wide open. So that's back-to-back matches with blood. In the ring, Joe hit a Manhattan drop. He hit a boot. Running senton, only got 2. That was the first cover of the match. Punk avoided a muscle buster. He hit a head kick. Both men are down. So then Punk hit a John Cena-esque Blue Thunder Bomb, and boy, did that get heat. People did not like that. And then Punk did the Hulk Hogan cupping of the ear, which got him more heat. A tribute, I'm sure, to Hogan's famous Wembley Stadium main event from many years ago. And then Punk hit a Hogan leg drop. Joe kicked out at 1. Joe hulked up. He pointed at Punk. And then he hit punches. He caught Punk with a snap power slam for 2. Joe caught a running Punk with a power bomb, and he used the kick out to turn it into an STF. So Joe switched over to a crossface. Punk rolled him up, got 2. Punk tried a Terry Funk spinning toe hold. I don't know how much of the crowd picked up on that. I think they thought he was going for the figure 4, and then they looked confused when he didn't complete the move. But even the announcers made mention that it was, you know, kind of a little tribute to Terry. But Joe pulled him into a pinning predicament. Punk kicked out. Punk went for a running knee strike in the corner. Joe caught him with the Uranage slam, the ST Joe. They ended up on the ropes. Punk bit him on the head. People booed. And then he hit the Pepsi plunge from the middle rope. And he covered Samoa Joe, and he pinned him to keep his real world title. It's been a while since we've seen the Pepsi plunge. I think he may have used the Pepsi plunge in an AEW match once before. If he did, though, you go back before that, and it's been a long-ass time since we have seen a proper Pepsi plunge in a CM Punk match. But I don't know that people were not expecting that. They were expecting a GTS. And he hit Joe with a GTS on TV last week that looked fucking terrible. So I don't know if maybe that's why he wanted to use the Pepsi plunge here. There was a GTS on TV that did not look good. But I think because people were not expecting it, the finish fell flat. So, you know, it looked cool that he would go back to that move after so long, but it made for a very flat finish to what I thought otherwise was a very enjoyable match. In the history of matches between CM Punk and Samoa Joe, and this would have been number 5, I think, as far as singles matches in their career, 5 or 6. But in the history of all the matches they've had, this was not their best. They are a lot older. That's what happens, right? I mean, you get older, you can't do the same things you used to do. You're not moving around at the same speed. These guys can still go, but this was not the best of their matches. but I enjoyed this one very much. I thought it was a hot opener. And even if it fell flat, I appreciate the Pepsi plunge. I appreciate him pulling that out of his arsenal and using that as a finish here in the match. So now the question is, what do you do with CM Punk at All Out? Because it's in his hometown of Chicago. If he's not in the main event, he has to be in a feature match somewhere high up on that card. What do you do with CM Punk? We have to wait and see if there's any fallout from this Jack Perry incident. You know, knowing Tony Khan, there won't be. But as far as Punk, it doesn't look like it looks like he's in the clear as far as any sort of punishments or anything coming out of this whole situation. I mean, it's ridiculous we even have to talk about this. And it's, in a way, it's eerily kind of funny because we are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of Brawl Out. We are literally heading into All Out next weekend. So the 1-year anniversary of Brawl Out is coming up. And by the way, Jose with a $7 super chat, you have been banned from Collision. That's the new $7 one. So let's assume that Punk is going to actually be on the fucking show next weekend. What do you do with CM Punk? For me, it's way too soon to put him and MJF in the ring together to do the Battle of the Champions, the real world champion, the AEW world champion, who's the undisputed champion. You got to build to it. We haven't gotten any promos from them on TV. What are you going to do? You're going to put them together on Dynamite for a promo battle? 1 week and then give us the match? Of course it's going to be a big match, but you need a proper build to something like that. And the issue with Punk and Joe now seems to be over. So I go back to what I said when I did my predictions on the podcast yesterday. I think we're getting a strap match between Punk and Ricky Starks. I think that for the championship. I think that's going to be the match in Chicago next weekend. I think there's a reason why they did what they did with Ricky Steamboat when they had Ricky Starks pull his belt off and whip him with it like a dog. I think that was done for a reason. They suspended him in storyline. Originally, it was going to be a 30-day suspension, and then they realized they goofed because that would take him out of the ring for All In and All Out. He already missed All In. So they had Tony Schiavone a couple of weeks ago go, oh, I made a mistake when I made that announcement. And actually, it's a 28-day suspension, which means he'll be eligible to wrestle again as of next Sunday. So I think that's because they're going to put him and Punk in the ring, and it's probably going to be a strap match. So we'll see if I'm right. That would be the most sensible plan, I think, for him at All Out. So then we had a trios match. It was the Elite, Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page, and Kota Ibushi, taking on Switchblade Jay White, Juice Robinson, and Konosuke Takeshita with the Guns in their corner. Don't tell Cash Wheeler. Don Callis joined Jim Ross and Excalibur on commentary for this match. It was cool to see Omega in the ring with Jay White and to see Jay White sharing a ring again since the New Japan days with Kota Ibushi. So that was pretty cool given their history together. The first face-off here between White and Ibushi. Ibushi was no-selling everything. I thought we were going to get Murder Ibushi. I don't know that Murder Ibushi exists anymore. This is not the same Kota Ibushi that we had 2 or 3 years ago. He's a little bit older. I'm still not convinced he's fully healed from his injury. But he did look better here than he did at Blood and Guts. I will say that. In the ring, as far as what he was doing, there were a few rough moments there, but I thought he recovered well. He looked better than he did back at the Blood and Guts match. But he no-sold everything that Jay White was doing. He came back with a wicked kick to the chest. Omega hit his Terminator dive. Omega ended up down a short time later, and now Takeshita came in to pick the bones. And Ibushi tried to save Kenny. Briefly had a slugfest with Takeshita. But the numbers were too great, and they took out Hangman Page as well. Hangman eventually made the hot tag, and he ran wild, hit multiple topes. Switchblade avoided Deadeye, and Ibushi got the blind tag. He started lighting up Jay White. He had a standing moonsault. Omega and Ibushi, they tried their double moonsaults to the floor. So they each went to a different corner of the ring. And Omega hit a moonsault to the floor. Ibushi went to go for a moonsault as well. I think from the middle buckle out on the apron. But he slipped. but I thought he recovered well. He recovered quickly. He ended up hitting the moonsault anyway. So now with Jay White all alone, we had locomotion corner splashes that led to a pop-up German suplex into a half-and-half by Ibushi for 2. The Kamigoye was countered into a Uranage. Takeshita and Omega, they started going at it. Robinson and White, they took a pair of Snapdragons. But Takeshita was there to hit a very nice-looking Blue Thunder Bomb. Omega answered with a V-trigger to the back, hit a Poison Rana. Omega and Page hit the You Can't Escape on Juice Robinson. Hangman hit a Flux Capacitor on Takeshita. And Page wanted the buckshot, but the Guns interfered, only to be wiped out with a moonsault. There was a moment here now at this point in the match. I have to mention this. I did say that Jim Ross was on commentary. And Jim Ross asked a very important question here at this point. He asked, why is everything golden? Because Excalibur kept referring to the golden this and the golden that, the golden elite. And obviously this confused Jim Ross.
Look at Richie Rich over here dropping all this money on me. Hey, I just want you to know.
Oh my God.
I think you rock. I don't mean The Rock, A Rock. You rock. And I just wanted you to know that.
ABK dropping another $100, 101 to be exact. A $101 super chat. ABK. Man. ABK. Yeah, I was talking about Ibushi lighting up Jay White at one point. ABK is lighting up this stream, is what he's doing. See Gunther. Yeah, he's putting Gunther to shame here. It's like, fuck Gunther. We're going to go above that. Hey, ABK, man. I love you, brother. I don't know what else to say. I love you, man. So Jim Ross wanted to know, why is everything golden? And Excalibur had to school him and explain, because Kota Ibushi is the golden star. Hence why everything is golden. He just sounded so clueless there. And that wasn't even the worst. That wasn't even the worst comment that Jim Ross made here during the show. That's still not as bad as later on, asking if Freddie Mercury was there for the show. This is when the Young Bucks came out. They were in Freddie Mercury-inspired gear for their match. And again, I couldn't tell if he was being facetious or not. I don't know why you would ask that question if that's supposed to be funny. I think he meant it. He asked the question, wondering if Freddie Mercury was there, not realizing that Freddie Mercury has been dead for over 30 years. So, look, Jim Ross very badly wanted to be part of this show. I know he's mentioned that he wanted to be there in London. He's gone through some rough times recently. He's had problems with his ankle, stemming from the radiation treatments for his cancer and his skin cancer. And he's doing better. And I'm very happy to hear that. But there were a couple of embarrassing moments on this show. Those were 2 of them. So I'm glad he was able to make it over for the show, but they did not have him there for every match. And that's honestly the best way to use Jim Ross. You use him selectively. You use him for a big match here and there, but not to do the entire show. But yes, Excalibur, they had to alert Jim Ross that Freddie Mercury has in fact been dead for quite some time. So there was a buckshot attempt that got countered into a half-and-half by White. Ibushi's Kamigoye was countered into a massive jumping knee strike from Takeshita. Hangman blindsided Takeshita with a buckshot to the back of the neck. Omega caught White with a V-trigger and then one for Juice as well. As Omega was going to go for the home run shot, Takeshita flew in from behind and he rolled up Kenny Omega and he stacked him and he pinned him. 1, 2, 3 to give the win to Bullet Club Gold and Takeshita. It was a flat finish to an otherwise good match. Takeshita in particular, I thought maybe more than any other single person, looked really good and really impressive in this match. Ibushi, as I said, I thought he looked better than he did in Blood and Guts. Outside of that one slip on the moonsault to the floor, I thought he recovered well. And even though the finish was flat, it made sense to have Takeshita be the one to pick up the win for his team and to do it over Omega. Now, what I would have done, my point that I made when I did the predictions, I would have had him hit the One-Winged Angel. and I would have had him beat Kenny with his own move to set up the singles match for All Out next weekend. So they didn't do that. They went with the roll-up finish instead, which feels kind of cheap, but him being the one to pick up the win over Omega is absolutely the right move. That was absolutely booking-wise the right move for this match, and now we wait for the official announcement because they have not yet said that they will wrestle next Sunday at All Out, but that has to be the match. That should have been the match here, but it should be the match at All Out next weekend. So now it was time for the AEW World Tag Team titles. FTR, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, defending their titles against the Young Bucks. This is the rubber match. They've had 2 matches prior to this, 1 win apiece. Both excellent matches. I loved their last match. That was the one they had on Dynamite. I believe that was last year. Last spring. So interesting. Omega in the last match with Hangman. Bucks here. So Tony Khan got rid of the Elite early in this show.
It's the amazing Gunther.
Putting them back to back.
Jerry Lawler loves Gunther, the Magnificent. All hail Gunther. All hail Gunther making an appearance on the All In stream. ABK, I bestow upon you the crown of Super Chat King so far tonight. ABK. Thank you, brother.
So the tag team titles were up for grabs. Dax and Cash, they were wearing black armbands for Bray Wyatt, Brody Lee, and Jay Briscoe. We got Wheeler's Got a Gun chants from the crowd, which was pretty funny during the match. See, the UK crowds have some very unique chants. Sometimes they bring them over to the States. They used to do that when WrestleMania would come, and then you'd have the Raw after WrestleMania, and all the fans from Europe would just go nuts with all the different chants and the songs and everything. So I figured there would be some interesting chants potentially during this match. Wheeler's Got a Gun was what they decided upon. We got a slugfest early on. Hey, Boots just dropped another 20 channel memberships, bringing his total so far tonight to 100. An even 100, which matches the all-time single record. One person donating 100, gifting 100 channel memberships. So Boots, you the man. And a Boots tag team with, was it ABK? They'd be unstoppable, these two. And you guys are something else. So we got a slugfest early on between both teams. That led to a double down. The Bucks kicked up. They sent FTR to the outside to regroup. Nick Jackson hit his corkscrew tornado on both men. Wheeler ate a super kick, got hung up in the ropes, and Nick hit a swanton for 2. Later on, Harwood countered a springing Nick Jackson into a slingshot powerbomb, but he was not the legal man. And Matt made the save, only to get trapped in a sharpshooter. On the apron, Wheeler somehow was able to maneuver Nick Jackson over. Barely had enough room to do it, but he got him over in a sharpshooter as well at the same time. And Nick powered out of it. He launched Wheeler off the apron into the ring steps. Nick saved his brother. He took out Wheeler with a moonsault, which led to everybody being down. The Bucks wanted a powerplex, but Matt and Wheeler, they each tried double splashes. Nick and Harwood, meanwhile, were down. They got their knees up. FTR hit the spike pile driver on Nick Jackson for a very close 2. Matt saved his brother from a shatter machine. And Nick and Dax, they tried to replicate the British Bulldog Bret Hart finish to their match at Wembley, at the old Wembley, at SummerSlam 92. But Nick Jackson kicked out at the last second. You knew they were going to have to pay homage to the Bret match. I mean, it's FTR, right? So they're always paying homage to Bret, but of all the nights to do it, I mean, you knew they were going to do something. So Harwood collided with his partner by accident, and the Bucks answered with a super kick party until they hit a spike pile driver of their own for a near fall. Wheeler prevented a Meltzer driver, so Nick took him out with the tope. The Bucks wanted a BTE trigger, but Harwood ducked, and so their knees collided together. Wheeler sprinted in with a dive through the ropes on Nick as the FTR trigger connected into a shatter machine with Matt kicking out at the last possible second. So Cash Wheeler then is on the apron, and he sets up and he goes for a springboard 450 splash. And he crashed and burned, and that was a nice callback to their very first match back in 2020 when he did the same thing. And in fact, that was the finish of the match. That led to FTR losing to the Bucks in that first match. That was where they did flips over fists. Their whole thing is fists and not flips. And so the story there for the finish of their first match was they ended up going against what they usually do and what they believe in, and it cost them the titles. So interesting to see him going back to that same spot again. The Bucks hit the BTE trigger. Harwood barely broke up the fall. Harwood then turned into a shatter machine. Wheeler ate another BTE trigger, only to kick out. With every near fall that they were giving us here, the crowd got louder and louder and louder. Bucks tried a Meltzer driver. FTR countered that into a shatter machine in midair, and they got the pin to retain their tag team titles. And after the match, FTR, they tried to be good sports here. They wanted to show respect to the Bucks. They put their hands out for the handshake, and the Young Bucks stared at them, and they decided against it. And so the Young Bucks did not shake their hands, and instead they walked off, and they got showered in booze by the crowd. So it was a surprise finish to me because I was convinced that Tony Khan was going to take the titles off of them, and just given the whole situation with Cash. We don't know yet how that's going to be resolved. So taking the titles off of FTR just seemed like the likely outcome here of this match. And Tony Khan didn't do that. FTR is the more over of the two teams right now. So if it were up to me, if you asked me, who do I want to see go over in this match, if I had the choice to make and forget all the outside stuff, I would have gone with FTR. So I'm happy that they kept the belts on them because right now they're the more over of the two teams. They're on this incredible run right now. The matches that they've been having on Collision, the match with MJF and Cole, the matches with Bullet Club Gold. I mean, these guys are on a fucking tear right now. And then this match here, they are the best tag team in the world. At this moment, the best tag team in wrestling is FTR. They staked their claim here in this match, and they proved that they can hang with anybody. We've seen them in there with Big Bill and Brian K. I mean, the matches they've had recently have been fantastic. So if they can continue to stay healthy and just continue on doing what they've been doing, they just got to find teams, to put them in the ring with. The Shatter Machine and the BTE Trigger are two moves that are typically very well protected. You don't usually see people kicking out of those moves. So it got a great reaction when they did kick out of those moves. When you protect a move long enough and then you have somebody kick out of it, it means something. When you just kick out of the same moves over and over again, after a while you get numb to it and it's not special and it doesn't really mean anything. But those are two of the more protected moves. This was excellent. This was an excellent match. I would have expected nothing less from these two teams. I did not like this as much as their second match. I like their second match better. It's been a while since I've seen that match. I might feel differently if I go back and watch it over again. I know that was a TV match too, so that had commercial breaks and everything, but I think I enjoyed match number 2 more. But all the matches these two teams have had have been very good to great. And yeah, I thought these two teams delivered in a big way. So then, no time to recover here. It was right into the Stadium Stampede. I'm still, at that point, I'm still just trying to catch up with my notes. I'm making some points here, and I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go. We're going into the Stadium Stampede. There's no way I'm going to be able to keep track of everything that's going on, but I will damn sure try. It was Eddie Kingston. It was Penta. It was Orange Cassidy and Best Friends taking on Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, Mike Santana, which is the name he's going by now, Mike Santana, and Ortiz. And before I get into this match, I did want to show one thing just to go back to FTR for a second. I just want to make sure I don't forget. This is an image that Dax put up on his Twitter when the match was over. I did mention that he and Cash came out wearing armbands for Jay Briscoe, Brody Lee, and Bray Wyatt. And so it's the photo of his tag team title belt. You see the nameplate on there, the Jay Briscoe nameplate. And then underneath the belt, he laid down the 3 armbands for Jay, Brody, and Bray. And I thought that was a very cool thing. It's a very cool thing. I still can't believe, the news of this week on the Bray Wyatt stuff is still something that really doesn't feel real to me. But unfortunately it is. And I think that they paid some very nice tributes to him tonight throughout the show. But this Stadium Stampede was 5-on-5. It was originally booked to be 6-on-6. Now, according to Fightful, the match was always going to be 5-on-5. So AEW knew that Rey Fenix was not going to be able to fly over for this show. And they announced him for Stadium Stampede anyway. They announced that it was going to be 6-on-6, knowing full well that they were going to do the injury angle on Dynamite this week to take him out of the match. And in the end, it was going to end up being 5-on-5. So as it turned out, they knew all along, and they just, I guess, decided to take the long way there. I guess put some more heat on the Blackpool Combat Club by having him take out Penta's brother. So anyway, that was the update on that. But there was another update from Fightful, because people have been wondering if Santana and Ortiz have patched things up. There have been stories for a while now, going back to when Santana first tore his ACL last year in Blood and Guts, that there was a falling out of some kind between him and Ortiz, and nobody really knew exactly what it was, or if they had patched things up since. There were, different reports that they maybe had gotten back on the same page. And I said on Wednesday when Santana returned, there was no interaction between him and Ortiz. When he came out and Ortiz came out also, they didn't come out together. Ortiz just sort of showed up on the ramp. And Santana was the one who got the fucking video, and he got his own entrance. But at no point on Wednesday did they embrace, did they shake hands, did they interact with each other. So they were part of the angle, but there was really nothing more going on. And so I wondered, did they really patch things up? According to Fightful, they have not. They said despite reuniting, the two are still not on good terms. Nor is Santana on good terms with Eddie Kingston. So Santana apparently has issues with multiple people. We still have no idea why. But that is the update on Santana and Ortiz. And that's why I said I'm not convinced that they're going to be back together as a team. The whole Mike Santana thing, why he's calling himself Mike, he clearly is prepared to go off on his own and have a singles run. I mean, he has gotten himself into the best shape of his life, right? He added the first name. I think he's ready to branch off on his own. Now, maybe Tony Khan is going to say, look, I want you guys as a tag team, and they'll be able to coexist and be a tag team. We did see them pull off some tag team moves here in this match, but evidently they're still not on the same page. And they could do business together, which is great. That's what a professional should do. Even if you don't like the other person, you should still be able to work with them if you have to. But Santana seems like someone who wants to get out on his own. And maybe that's part of the disagreement. Maybe that's part of the problem here. Maybe he wants to go do his own thing, and Ortiz doesn't want the team to come to an end. I don't know. But Kingston, when he came out to make his entrance, he didn't waste any time. He sprinted right down the aisle. He met with Claudio. He hates his guts. Best friends and Proud and Powerful, they had a face-off in the ring to reignite their rivalry. They had their parking lot brawl a few years ago. That was great. Kingston and Claudio, they brawled into the crowd. Moxley used a branding iron on Trent Beretta, which was a nice tribute to Terry Funk. Penta saved Trent from a street sweeper by using chair shots to the head. And then he hit an awful looking backstabber to Santana. So basically what happened here is he went for the backstabber. He went down, and Santana didn't go down at the same time with him. There was like a second or two delay. So it did not look very good. Moxley hit a springing Penta with a paradigm shift. And yes, John Moxley, for those wondering, he bled first. I know that's going to come as a shock to all of you. Actually, no, it's not. It's not going to come as a shock to any of you that he bled first here in this match. So we got a split screen with Eddie and Claudio off somewhere else. They were in the stands. They were up in the stands somewhere. Yuta and Chuck Taylor, they were also paired off elsewhere in the building. Moxley went to the bag. There was a bag that Wheeler Yuta brought into the ring with him. And he pulled out some skewers. And he wanted to use them, but the tables got turned on him, and it was Penta who dug the skewers into Moxley's skull. This was disgusting. I mean, he got those skewers in there good. I mean, they were like buried into this man's skull. And of course, he started bleeding even more. This truly did. This looked disturbing. So with some of the skewers still stuck in his head, Penta hit the maiden Penta for 2 count as we got a shot of Kingston and Claudio. They were battling into the Royal Box level at Wembley Stadium. Santana connected with the pile driver onto a chair to Penta, and Penta sold it like maybe he had really gotten hurt. Trainer rushed over, the referee checked on him. A little bit of a hush came over the crowd because they quickly rushed him out. They rushed him away from ringside into the back. So it looked like he really got hurt. And I couldn't tell what the injury was, if he hurt his eye or he hurt his neck. But I fell for it and thought that he was really hurt. As we would find out a few minutes later, that was a planned spot so that he can go to the back and change into a different outfit. So it's all good with Penta. Cassidy tried his little kicks on Moxley, who brought out a fork, and he stabbed Cassidy repeatedly in the head with it, which bloodied him up. Chuck Taylor and Eddie Kingston, they fought with Claudio and Yuta up in the box seats. They used umbrellas as weapons. Kingston was jamming the umbrella into the mouth of Yuta. Nigel McGuinness made a Mary Poppins reference while this was going on, so well played. Back in the ring, Santana and Ortiz powerbombed Trent onto a ladder in the corner, and Trent now was also bleeding. Moxley hit a suplex onto a barbed wire board. Beretta was dropped with a pile driver onto the steps. You know, again, I watch these guys going out there, and they're just killing each other. And I sit here and I watch this, and I just think, I don't know, at what point is enough enough? Because I feel like if we had seen this kind of match in WWE, it would be wild, because we don't get matches like this in WWE anymore, right? They have a whole pay-per-view called Extreme Rules, and there's rarely anything extreme about it. But in AEW, it's the complete opposite. And I feel like we get this way too much. We had Anarchy in the Arena back in May. We had Blood and Guts back in July. And when it comes to Moxley and the BCC, I feel like we just get these on television every other week. So there was a part here in this match where the crowd got really quiet and they weren't reacting all that well. And maybe it was different in the stadium, but I'm just telling you how it was coming across on television. There were large chunks of this match, aside from the really big spots that would get a big reaction, where the crowd was pretty quiet. They were almost alarmingly quiet in certain spots, as these guys are killing each other and they're taking these horrendous bumps. And I'm sitting here saying, I'm not even enjoying this. Like, what are you doing? I think there is a point that you reach where there's an audience for this, but when you just do it all the time, does it have the same value? Does it have the same effect? And you're doing this at what cost? So I midway through the match, this thought was running through my head as I was watching this, and the people were barely reacting. So Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta, they got thrown up the ramp, and they were surrounded by everybody except Ortiz. Ortiz was back at ringside. He was setting tables up outside the ring. We then see a van driving on the side of the stadium, driving towards the stage. And of course, in the driver's seat is Sue, Trent Beretta's mom. Moxley walks over to the driver's side door. He reaches in and he sexually harasses Trent's mother by forcibly kissing her. This greatly upsets her son, who explodes all over Moxley. Trent reaches into the van, and his mom hands him a tray of cookies. On a cookie sheet, he waffles Claudio with it. What a waste of cookies, by the way. Some of those cookies that were on there look pretty good, too. What a fucking waste. So now we hear music, and we hear Alex Abrahantes' voice, and here comes Penta Oscuro, evil Penta, who has gone backstage for a wardrobe change like it's the fucking Oscars or something. He comes back out after he's done his wardrobe change, and he is dressed in all red. So now he goes over and he's fighting with Santana, and there's a ladder. And they're going to do a spot off the ladder through some tables. This is the shittiest ladder that I have ever seen. They're standing on this ladder. And the ladder, literally the ladder just starts to fall apart. Rungs are breaking off the ladder. Alex is trying to hold it up. They don't have another ladder nearby. So they salvage the spot. Somehow they still manage to pull it off, climb back up the ladder. I don't know how they did that. But he hit a destroyer off the ladder through some tables. Yuta was in the ring. He was barely conscious. Best friends. They all hugged. They did the big group hug with Yuta in the middle. Yuta tried to use a screwdriver on Chuck Taylor. He dodged it and hit the awful waffle. Claudio blocked an orange punch into a giant swing. As the swing was still going on, Trent superplexed Ortiz to the floor through those tables that he was setting up earlier. Moxley slammed Taylor onto what looked like a bunch of Legos on the floor, which honestly may have been the most dangerous part of this match. That sucks. Just stepping on a Lego is fucking terrible. I can imagine being slammed on them. Cassidy taped up his fist, and with the sticky part on the outside, I guess it was double-sided tape, maybe not double-sided, but it was sticky tape of some kind. He broke a bottle and he dipped his hand in the glass. And he was going to hit an orange punch, a glass-covered orange punch to Claudio, but Moxley cut him off. Cassidy did manage a tornado DDT onto the broken glass. Claudio, though, hit a pop-up uppercut. There was a spot here now where a bleeding Eddie Kingston finally emerges down the aisle. He's making his way back to the ring. This was not as cool as the image from, I guess it would have been Anarchy in the Arena last year, where he looked like a zombie coming out with the gas can. This was not as cool as that, but he is bleeding. He is coming back down to the ring, and he's holding a chair wrapped in barbed wire, and he's hitting anything that by God moves until Moxley tried to stop him. Kingston started firing off some spinning back fists on Claudio and Moxley, who he ultimately tackled through a table that was set up in the corner. Cassidy popped up. He hit an orange punch wrapped in glass on Claudio, and he got the pin to win the match. Well, that was certainly something. This was not as fun as the first Stadium Stampede that they did a few years ago, but it was chaotic. It was violent. It was bloody. And this was much more of a Terry Funk hardcore tribute than what we got on SmackDown Friday night. That much I will say. You're going to do a hardcore match in the vein of a Terry Funk. This looked a lot more like an old Terry Funk hardcore match than what we had the Street Profits and the Brawling Brutes on Friday. So look, this is going to boil down to whether or not this is the sort of thing that you like to see. There are times where I can enjoy this. There are other times that, for whatever reason, I don't really enjoy it as much. I think this was fine for what it was meant to be, but this was one of my least favorite things on the entire show. This was not for me. So, I thought Eddie Kingston should have been the one to get the win. Now, it might make more sense come Dynamite Wednesday that Cassidy picked up the win. It might lead to something, maybe it All Out. But I was kind of hoping that Eddie would get the win, that he would beat Yuta to win the match. Then he would wrestle Moxley next weekend at All Out and beat Moxley. And then there would only be one member left, Claudio. Wrestle Claudio a Grand Slam in a few weeks in New York City for the Ring of Honor World title. That could still happen. But they gave the win here to Orange Cassidy instead. No international title defense on this show, but he did pick up the win. So these poor women had to follow all of this chaos. They put the one lone women's match on this entire show, and they put this match here after Stadium Stampede. It was a 4-way for the women's championship. It was Hikaru Shida defending against Saraya, Toni Storm, and Britt Baker. Saraya entered first to Queen's We Will Rock You, accompanied by her entire family. So her parents were there, her brothers were there, a bunch of other people I didn't recognize, they were there. Maybe they were brothers too. So this was a big moment for her. To be a part of this match at Wembley Stadium alone was a big moment for Saraya. But for her to be able to come out there to Queen, dressed as a queen. She had like a little queen's crown on her head, and her whole family was there. I'm sure that was a very special moment for her. Speaking of the queen, Toni Storm came out to God Save the Queen. Storm and Saraya, early on in the match, they worked together, but that didn't last very long. They did a spot where one woman went for a pin, pulled the other one off, then the other woman went for a pin. She got pulled off. They started bickering. Shida came over. She slammed both their heads together. Toni took Baker to ringside where Saraya's mom was in the front row. And Saraya put her in a full Nelson to hold her. And Toni Storm went to go hit Britt Baker, but Britt moved. And instead, Toni nailed Saraya's mom right in the face with a punch and knocked her out, knocked her backwards. And they cut to Saraya in the ring, who a moment ago was smiling like, yeah, mom, go get her. And when she saw what happened, they cut back to Saraya, and she had a very angry look on her face, like, what did you just do? And Toni was trying to tell her, no, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. So Saraya's mom now is furious, and she's trying to jump over the barricade. She's being held back by her kids. Storm tried to calm down Saraya, but Saraya attacked her. So they're trading strikes, and the fans are cheering Saraya. They're booing Toni Storm. Ruby Soho now runs down to the ring. This was Ruby's one big moment here on this show. She didn't wrestle. Ruby is going to be wrestling Chris Statlander for the TBS title in Chicago next Sunday. She ran down to the ring to try to talk Toni Storm out of hitting sweet cheek music to Saraya in the corner because Saraya has the bad neck. And if you see Toni Storm hit this move, I don't know how she doesn't break people's necks when she hits this move or give them whiplash every single time. So Ruby is telling her, don't do it, the neck, don't do it. So Storm tried to walk past her, and Ruby grabbed her hand, and Toni turned around and she blasted Ruby with a shot. And that pissed off Ruby, and Ruby left the ring, and she stormed off to the back, and we didn't see her again. So Saraya fired up and put Toni Storm in a sharpshooter, and then grabbed her arms, and she hooked her arms behind her. The Bull Nakano move. We used to see Bull Nakano do that to Alundra Blaze when they had their feud in WWE many years ago. That's what I know it from. But as she had her in the hold, Britt Baker comes over and she delivers a stomp to Toni Storm, which I thought was a very cool spot. She cleared Saraya away with a punch. She covered Toni, only got a near fall. Shida went up top. She hit a Meteora on Saraya, who kicked out at 2. Shida hit the katana kick on Saraya, had her beat. Britt Baker broke up the pin. She went for lockjaw on Hikaru Shida, and this was hilarious because she's trying to put lockjaw on her and get the fingers in the mouth. But the spot is that Shida is kind of fighting her and struggling and keeping her teeth clenched, and Britt can't get the fingers in the mouth. The only problem is it looked ridiculous because she's kind of holding her hand in such a way like she can't reach up into her mouth, but like, dude, you can easily put your fingers in her mouth if you wanted to. So she has to like pretend that she can't get the fingers in there. And they just kept the camera just focused and lingering on them as they were doing this spot. I just thought it looked ridiculous. So Saraya returned to the ring with a can of spray paint while that was going on. She sprayed Toni Storm in the eyes. She hit Storm with her Rampage DDT, and she pinned Toni Storm. All Britt Baker could do was watch. She let go of the hold. She was going to try to break it up. There was no time. And Saraya pins Toni Storm. She pins her Outcasts stablemate to become the brand new AEW Women's World Champion. After the match, Saraya's family entered the ring and celebrated with her. They shot pyro off over the stadium, and obviously she was very emotional as she left the ring. So as I expected, Toni Storm, or not Toni Storm, but Saraya rather. Saraya gets the feel-good moment. This is what I figured Tony Khan would do. I was pulling for a Shida win, but I knew that he was going to give her the feel-good moment here in the UK, put the title on Saraya in front of 80,000 people, and look, it was a nice moment for Saraya. I don't see her holding on to that championship for very long. This is not going to be a title run, I don't think, of any great length. In fact, I could see her dropping the belt as soon as next weekend. And maybe it won't be next weekend, but she doesn't work very many matches as it is. She really doesn't. And it's not like she has to be on television every week defending the title, but we really don't see Saraya in the ring that often. So, again, that tells me that she's not going to be the champion for very long. So next weekend, what do you do with the Women's World Championship? Do they have Saraya defend the title against Shida in a rematch? Because Shida was the champion. Shida was never pinned. Toni Storm was pinned. So they could run a singles match between Saraya and Hikaru Shida next Sunday. But there's another interesting little wrinkle to this because the announcers made mention of Mercedes Moné in the crowd, and how she would be watching this very intently and she would have a great interest in the developments here in this match and Saraya winning the championship.
In my eye.
Hey, Corey Blake, thank you for that 1992 Ric Flair drop. So you got Ric Flair drip. That's the Ric Flair drop here on YouTube. So how might Mercedes factor into this whole thing? There's a history there between these two ladies. I'm sure they would love to work together. And again, I don't think they're showing her as many times as they were on screen tonight and referencing her on commentary. And they kept bringing her up unless Tony Khan has some sort of commitment for her to come in for at least one match. I just don't believe that. I don't believe they don't already have some kind of agreement for her to come in when she is healed up from her injury. Now, it's not going to be next weekend, I wouldn't think. But could they do Saraya against Mercedes for the women's title in November at Full Gear? Sure, yeah, I think that's a possibility. I think it just really boils down to when is Mercedes healed up from her ankle injury, if she isn't already. The match itself, I thought, was okay. I thought the match was all right. Went about 8 minutes, not a very long match. We had Sting and Darby Allin against Swerve Strickland and Christian Cage in a coffin match. That was next up here on this pay-per-view.
Look, everyone, it's
Let me take
Samoa Bro.
Oh, it's Samoa Bro. Thank you, Samoa Bro. Thank you, Bender McSimpson, for the Samoa Bro. Don't forget to hit that like button if you are filtering in here, for those of you who have not already done so. It does help the video out so that more people will see it when they jump on YouTube. So go ahead and hit that thumbs up. We had a coffin match. According to Sean Ross Sapp over on Fightful, AR Fox being pulled from Mogul Embassy and All In was not always the plan. Whatever the reason may be, some reported heat on Fox for not being able to work the show. It was very odd how they pulled him at the last minute on Wednesday. It was supposed to be Swerve and AR Fox against Sting and Darby. And not only did they pull him from this match, but they kicked him out of the faction that he only just joined a number of weeks ago. He had turned heel, and they just undid everything. And it struck me as very strange unless there was some reason he couldn't fly over to the UK. And in that case, I can't really put it all on the company if they were caught, flat-footed by something that they were not made aware of. That sounds to me like there was a reason that AR Fox could not fly to London, and he didn't tell the company. Maybe he didn't know. But whether he knew or not, the company thought he was going to be on the show, and then they found out the week before that he can't go, and they're pissed off about it. And that sucks because it was cool to see AR Fox finally getting an actual push on the national stage, and I thought him being part of Mogul Embassy and paired up with Swerve and seeing them back together again, after their Lucha Underground days together, was a good spot for him to be in. And now that's gone. And if he has heat on him and he lost that spot, I don't know what other spot there is for him as far as like a prime spot on TV. He may have blown it. He may have blown his big chance here. And so that's the update on AR Fox. They replaced him with Christian Cage. No complaints out of me. As far as a replacement, that's a hell of a replacement. Is to get Christian Cage on the show in some way. It's always good to see him. So Flash Garments and DJ Woo Kid, that's their name, they wrapped Swerve and Prince Nana to the ring for his entrance. Sting and Darby for their entrance. First they had a video that showed them walking the streets of London with Sting wearing a top hat, Half of his face was done up like Joker Sting. The other half was done up like traditional Crow Sting. And Tony Khan paid for Metallica's Seek and Destroy for their entrance music here for this match, which Sting also used for a time in WCW. So Metallica and Queen on this show alone. Tony Khan breaking open the bank to pay for some music on this show. So Sting and Christian Cage, there was an early face-off in the ring between them, and we actually had chance of TNA. They were light, but we got chance of TNA here at Wembley Stadium. In all the years of TNA's existence, they have never had a show in front of a crowd even half as big as the one that AEW had here. 4.5 years or so into their existence. Impact has been around for over 20 years now. And this is the most exposure they've had as far as the crowd chanting TNA here in this ring. It takes me back. The days of Sting and Christian Cage and TNA. It feels like a lifetime ago. Darby pulled out 2 coats covered in thumbtacks from inside the coffin, and he and Sting put them on. Sting lit up Nana and Swerve with a cricket bat before a pair of Coffin and Stinger splashes connected while they were wearing the jackets. Christian came in. He chop blocked Sting's leg as he and the heels, they ripped the jackets off of the baby faces. Christian taped the wrists of Darby behind his back. Swerve used the cricket bat on Sting outside the ring. Christian missed a corner charge, and Darby hit a no-handed springing moonsault. And then he followed that up with a no-handed running dive out to Strickland on the floor. I don't know how he does the things that he does. Never ceases to amaze me. Sting went over. He freed Darby's hands. With Strickland draped over a table on the floor, Sting decided to go to the apron, and he was going to jump off the apron. He was going to put this man through a table. Or at least that was the idea. Sting jumped off the apron. He landed on Swerve. The table did not break. So apparently they were using the Japanese tables here in London. You got to really put some effort into it to break those things. Sting, though, he's not a man who's going to give up that easily. He decided to very calmly walk up the steps, back into the ring. He walked over back to the side of the ring where Swerve was outside. He went back out onto the apron. And if at first you don't succeed, try again. And this time Sting jumped off the apron and he put Swerve through the table. Landed right on top. He was sitting right on top of Swerve. Totally safe spot for Sting. Maybe not so much for Swerve. But he did put that man finally through that table. Meanwhile, Darby set up Christian on a chair outside. Christian's just sitting in this chair. And Darby gets back into the ring. He climbs all the way up to the top rope, hits a shotgun drop kick that sends Christian just sailing backwards. Christian was about to have the coffin door shut on him a couple of minutes later, but Luchasaurus appeared. He made the save. Nick Wayne showed up, and he cracked a skateboard across the back of Luchasaurus, which he pretty much no-sold, and then he choke-slammed Nick Wayne onto the skateboard. Then he picked him up, and he carried him backstage. Sting set up Swerve on top of the coffin, and Darby went for a coffin drop off the top rope. The idea was that he would smash Swerve with the coffin drop on top of the casket on the floor. Unfortunately for Darby, Swerve rolled off, and Darby crashed so hard into the top of this coffin, put a huge dent in it. He had a look on his face like he was questioning his life choices after the initial impact. He probably knocked the wind out of himself. And so he missed, and he rolled onto the floor. So now Sting is all by himself. It's 2-on-1, handicap situation in the ring. He has the Scorpion Deathlock on Christian. Strickland hit him with a chair shot from behind, and Sting no-sold it. He let go of the hold. Christian, though, came back. He got a low blow on Sting with Sting's baseball bat. Swerve then came off the top. He hit the Swerve stomp to Sting. Cage laid out Darby at ringside as Strickland had Sting in the coffin. The lid is up. The coffin by now was dragged into the ring. He puts Sting inside the casket, and the lid is still upright. Strickland takes the baseball bat, and he throws the bat into the casket with Sting. And he's playing to the crowd, and he's wasting time, and he went over to shut the lid. As he closed the lid, Sting slid the baseball bat, just part of the baseball bat out so the lid wouldn't shut, which actually was kind of cool. And they zoomed in on that little piece of bat that was sticking out that was preventing him from closing the lid. And Sting escaped, but he ate a kill shot kick after that. Swerve then placed Sting on top of the coffin, and he headed up top. Took way too long. He went for a 450 splash. Sting rolled out of the way just in the nick of time, and Swerve crashed and burned on top of the coffin. Darby outside, he fought back with a belt shot with the TNT title to Christian's face, as Sting laid out Swerve with a death drop, scorpion death drop on top of the coffin. So now, you got to picture it now, half of Swerve's body is in the coffin, and half of it is just sort of hanging out dead outside the coffin. Darby goes up top, and he hits a coffin drop onto the lid, so he crushes Swerve. And then they stuff the rest of Swerve's body, the upper half of his body, into the coffin. They slam the lid shut. Sting and Darby Allin pick up the win. I had a lot of fun watching this match. I thought this match was a lot of fun. I actually had more fun with this than the Stadium Stampede. I keep saying it, but Sting doing the things that he does at 64 years of age is just wild. He really is, in many ways, he has taken that mantle. He's like a modern-day Terry Funk. Terry Funk was always the one who was the elder statesman, who was doing all of these wild things and moonsaults off balconies and off the top rope and lighting things on fire and wrapping himself in barbed wire and doing all of these things that he did not need to be doing. But he gave his body up for it anyway, and he would do it and do things that he should not have been able to do at his age. Right? The wild and crazy old vet. That's what Sting is. That's what Sting is in AEW now. He's the wild and crazy old vet who does not need to be putting himself through all of this stuff, but he does it because he wants to, and he wants to give back, and he wants to maybe test himself and see what he can and can't do, and he's doing dives and all sorts of shit. He took some bumps in this match, but nothing completely outrageous, which is what I was worried about. I thought he was going to jump off something 20 feet in the air. You know, they were going to brawl into the stands, and he was going to do another balcony dive. Thankfully, that didn't happen. He played it mostly safe here, so I was happy to see that. And if Sting wanted to retire at Wembley Stadium, honestly, this would have been, I think, a fine match for him to go out on. You know, it was a crowd-pleasing match. They picked up the win. He looked good. There were no real scary spots with him here. But he's not done yet. Sting has made it very clear. He never said he was retiring at Wembley. Some people thought he was. They assumed maybe he was. It sounds to me like Sting talking about this year being his last year is probably not going to be the case. Tony Khan doesn't want him to stop. Tony Khan will happily keep signing Sting to new contracts if his contract is coming up. He wants Sting to stay. He wants him to stick around. And I don't get the sense that Sting is in any rush to hang it up. So it looks like 2023 will probably not be the final year for Sting. I just hope he doesn't keep going until he gets hurt. You know, he's going to keep pushing it, and then one day he gets hurt, and then it's like that's how his career comes to an end. Because it was really shitty and very sad how his WWE run came to an end, and it wasn't a very long run, it wasn't even a full year. But for it to go down the way it did due to injury was a pretty shitty way for his career to end. And Tony Khan gave him the chance on the national stage to get a second chance and to be able to go out the way that he wants to go out and to write the final chapter of his story the way that he wants to write it. I hope he gets to write that chapter injury-free and gets to go out on a high note the way that he wants to, whether it's this year or next year or the year after that. He doesn't have to be on television every week. You can protect him, but you know, he's out there having the time of his life, and the fans love seeing him, and you know, he can still go. So who knows how many more matches he's got left in him. Darby winning the match here makes sense because he builds momentum now going into Chicago next weekend. He's going to be challenging the Dinosaur for the TNT title. So that made sense. Chris Jericho, one-on-one with Will Ospreay. Jericho dressed up as a luchador, and he attacked Ospreay after his match with Shingo Takagi at the Rev Pro show yesterday. Not the first time that Jericho has crashed another event, an independent event, dressed up in a lucha mask. Fozzy performed Jericho's entrance. Jericho sang himself to the ring with 80,000 people singing Judas along with him. The crowd, though, was solidly behind Will Ospreay. As you would imagine here, being in England, this man took the New Japan United States Championship and he rebranded it. He junked it and he rebranded it as the UK title. You mean to tell me this guy was going to be coming into this show and getting booed? Please. He came out. He got plenty of cheers here from the crowd at Wembley. Ospreay hit a sky twister press outside early that looked like it just killed Jericho. I mean, it looked like he caught Jericho right on his head. And I half expected Jericho to just be laying there completely concussed and knocked out. I don't know how he wasn't. So he connected pretty hard on that one. Ospreay got sent to the apron, and Jericho hit his springing drop kick. And then a baseball slide outside. Back up on the apron, Jericho folded up Ospreay with a German suplex. That looked brutal. Ospreay came up. He was shaking out the right arm to try to get some feeling back into his arm. Jericho targeted the upper back until a standing shooting star put Ospreay back in control, but Jericho fought back with a top rope Hurricane Rana, which I thought Ospreay sold perfectly. So Will got the knees up to avoid a lion salt, draped Jericho over the top rope, hit his shooting star splash. Jericho hit a code breaker to the back of Ospreay, who was looking for an os cutter. Then he hit a proper code breaker, got a near fall. Ospreay answered back with a hook kick and an os cutter for 2. Jericho countered the Stormbreaker into a flipping Hurricane Rana and into the walls of Jericho. So Ospreay is struggling now. Eventually, he's able to break free out of this hold. Jericho then charged right into a Spanish Fly. Ospreay wanted Hidden Blade, but he ran into another code breaker and an os cutter from Jericho, who nearly landed on his own head in the process. Ospreay kicked out. He hulked up into a forearm exchange. Jericho connected with the Judas effect, but he only got 2. Ospreay connected with the Hidden Blade, and then Stormbreaker, and Jericho kicked out. Jericho flipped Ospreay off. He dared him to hit him. Ospreay charged in for the Hidden Blade, another Stormbreaker, and this time he's able to put away Chris Jericho and pick up the win. After the match was over, Sammy Guevara, who was out there in Jericho's corner for the match, he tried to console Jericho, but he got shoved away a few times. Jericho didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to have anything to do with him, and Jericho left on his own. The crowd was quiet during parts of this, but all the other parts where they were up for Ospreay, which it's kind of pointless. I'm still sitting here now that I've seen the match, and I'm wondering what was the point of basically turning Jericho babyface, which is kind of what they did, by having him not go with Callis. Then Callis kind of turned the tables on him and said, I didn't want you anyway. You're an egomaniac. And then, they had Ospreay attack him from behind. They babyfaced this guy. But there was no chance of him coming in here and getting more cheers than Will Ospreay. And he was even playing it up as a heel, it felt like, here in this match. I mean, aside from the entrance, because whether he's a heel or a babyface, Jericho always comes out and does the babyface entrance. So I just think it was kind of pointless to turn him the way they did on TV. I don't think they had to do that even with the JAS story that they're doing. But as far as the match, no outside shenanigans from Don Callis. No outside shenanigans from Sammy Guevara. Jericho worked hard. This was one of the better matches that he has had in a while here in AEW. It was not up to the level of the usual big Will Ospreay match. And I knew that going in. It was never going to be. I didn't see the match that he had with Shingo Takagi at the Rev Pro show yesterday, but I'm willing to bet from a match perspective, if all the other Shingo and Ospreay matches I've ever seen are any indication, I'm sure that was a better match than this was. Because I said coming in, he's going to be at Wembley, and the best Ospreay match of the weekend is not even going to happen at Wembley Stadium. That being said, even though it wasn't up to the usual standards of a Will Ospreay match, this could not hold a candle to the match that he had with Omega at Forbidden Door. it was still very good. And I said coming in, Jericho could not ask for a better opponent than Will Ospreay. If anybody was going to go in there and give him the chance to have the best possible match, you are in there with, in my opinion, the best in-ring, bell-to-bell pro wrestler in the world today. From a match quality standpoint, the things that he can do, Will Ospreay is the best. You could not ask for a better dance partner. And he went in there and they danced, and they had a very good match. It just was not the usual Will Ospreay classic that, you come to expect. But for him, he got to go in there in his home country in front of 80,000 people. Maybe it was a dream of his to get in the ring with Chris Jericho. So for him, I'm sure it was a special moment, but never rose to the level of a classic. So the House of Black were defending their trios titles on this show. They used this as the buffer match. It was Malachi Black, Brody King, and Buddy Matthews defending their AEW trios titles against the Acclaimed and badass Billy Gunn. He said he's leaving daddy ass behind. It's going to be badass Billy Gunn. He even had the word badass tattooed on his, well, not tattooed, but that would be kind of funny. It was emblazoned on the back of his trunks. In case you were wondering which version of Billy Gunn it was, all you had to do was look at the guy's ass, which I'll let you guys do that, but it did say that on there. So this was the buffer before the main event. House of Black came out. They were paying tribute to Bray Wyatt. Buddy Matthews had the Bray Wyatt lantern. As the announcers acknowledged Wyndham Rotunda, they acknowledged his passing. They said some very nice things about him. I thought the lantern was a very nice touch. And you looked out into the crowd and you saw all the fireflies. Because by this point, first of all, for their entrance, the lights are down anyway. But darkness had descended upon Wembley. Right? When you have these outdoor shows, you always start with sunlight and gradually it gets darker and darker as the event goes on. So you saw all the fireflies in the crowd for Bray Wyatt. So I thought that was very cool. So the house rules had the Acclaimed electing to make this match no holds barred. Seems like house rules really only pop up when it's convenient for them. So they made it no holds barred. If you didn't get enough brawling in the FTW title match and in the Stadium Stampede and in the Coffin match, you got more of it here. So they randomly cut to a shot of Mercedes in the crowd watching this match. Like I said, there's no way they're showing her this many times unless they have some kind of plan for her. Why cut to a shot of her during this match? That was kind of weird. But there she was. She was having a good time. And every time they showed her on screen, she got a big cheer from the crowd. So Malachi hit an early moonsault onto Max Caster on the floor. While Billy and Brody King fought out at ringside. Buddy Matthews flipped over the top rope to take out the Acclaimed. Billy teased the dive, but then Julia Hart got in his way, jumped up on the apron and said, no. So he told her to suck it, and they dragged Julia Hart into the ring, and they gave her the scissor me timbers from the top rope. Taz made a yam bag reference, which really doesn't apply in this situation unless they know something about Julia Hart that I don't. So something happened outside the ring when Billy and Brody, I think, were fighting. And Brody King got back in the ring and he was cut open. He was bleeding. I guess he didn't want to be left out. Brody pulled out a chain. Malachi held Bowens in place. King tried to hit Bowens, but he ended up taking out Malachi by accident. Moments later, Billy Gunn hit Matthews with a famouser. Had him beat, but Aubrey Edwards got pulled out to the floor. Malachi dropped Billy with the end, and Billy Gunn kicked out. First time I can remember somebody kicking out of that black mass kick. I didn't expect it to be Billy Gunn, but he kicked out. Anthony Bowens hit the arrival on Brody King. Max Caster followed that with a mic drop. King kicked out. Billy hit the famouser on Brody. Bowens performed the arrival again. And Max Caster hit another mic drop. And this time they all piled on top of the big guy. And they pinned him to win the Trios Championships. When the match was over, the House of Black would not give up their titles. They had the Trios titles. And they did not initially want to give up their belts. They showed respect, though, to the Gunns and to the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn, and they did ultimately hand over the titles. Anthony Bowens got on the microphone. He said that Billy Gunn deserves this moment, and despite being badass tonight, they wanted to scissor with daddy ass in celebration. So the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn are your new AEW Trios champions, and that had to be the finish. The way this story has played out now over the last few months, the only finish that really made sense was the one that we got here, where the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn get their big moment. They win the Trios titles. It's a crowd-pleasing moment. They did the fake retirement angle with Billy Gunn with the boots and everything. He made his big return, and they were saving this moment for Wembley Stadium in front of the biggest possible crowd. And of course, when they won, the crowd went crazy because they liked the Acclaimed and they liked Billy Gunn with the Acclaimed. As ridiculous as it is for Billy Gunn to be a champion and have a belt here in 2023, it's the finish that made the most sense here. I don't mind it also for another reason. What I would like to see Tony Khan use this as an opportunity to take Malachi Black and start using him more in singles matches. Andrade El Idolo, before he vanished again, was getting television time. He mentioned on social media he wanted a match with Malachi Black, a one-on-one match at Wembley Stadium at All In. He mentioned that weeks ago. We have not seen Andrade since. There's a lot of rumors flying around about him and stuff that may or may not be going on in his personal life. Maybe that has something to do with why he suddenly disappeared. I'm not aware of an injury or anything. It sucks, though, because he was finally starting to build some momentum on Collision, and then he just vanished again. So he wasn't on the show tonight. If he eventually comes back, I would like to see them get back to that, and maybe we can get Malachi and Andrade one-on-one. But the problem is that I've had with it. I like the House of Black. I think they're fine. But all he's been doing is trios matches. And Malachi Black is better than just being a trios wrestler. You can do the occasional House of Black trios if you want to, but let's start getting him in the ring unless there's some physical injury reason that they're kind of hiding him almost in these six-mans. Let's start getting him into singles matches. He's too good to be wasting away in these constant trios matches like this. Maybe now that they've dropped the belts, we can start to see some of that. I certainly hope the idea is not to just put the belts right back on them, next weekend. Or a few weeks from now. Use it to move him into something else. So then it was time for the main event of the evening. MJF defending the AEW World Championship against Adam Cole, fresh off their Ring of Honor World Tag Team title win 4 hours earlier. This, by the way, one of the problems with some of these AEW pay-per-views, they have these great matches, but they go way too long. And they don't go off the air until after midnight. Now, we don't have that issue tonight because of the earlier start time. But this never felt too long. Some of the AEW shows, they feel very long. I didn't feel that way about this show. I didn't feel that it was going on for too long. It was dragging. I was looking at the time or anything like that. So that was a good thing. That was a good thing that at no point to me did it feel like it was going too long. Oh boy. Anti-M Bishop. Had to get that in there, huh? Accessing Bree mode. Dropping $25 on my head here on this stream. Hey, Anti-M, thank you very much. Again, I'm going to be getting to your super chats here in just a few minutes once we wrap up the review portion. So if you want to send in a message or just show some support, by all means, go ahead and get it on in. You knew Bree would make an appearance at some point. So Cole entered first. He was wearing his Ring of Honor Tag Team belt that they won only a few hours earlier. MJF was carried to the ring on a throne, and he was wearing that white devil mask that we've seen him wear before. Before finally his regular entrance music kicked in, he took the mask off. After the big introductions in the ring, MJF and Cole, they went face to face. They started talking to each other, and then they left the ring. They backed off. They both came back with their tag team shirts. They came back with their merch. They got merch to sell. So they put their shirts on to start the match. After a few early exchanges, Cole set up for a super kick, which caused MJF to drop to his ass, and Cole did his pose. MJF offered him a handshake out of sportsmanship. He encouraged the fans to chant sportsmanship, sportsmanship. And then when Cole came over for the handshake, MJF poked him in the eye. Why? Because the man is a scumbag. How do I know that? Because he tells us that every week. He's a scumbag, and that's what a scumbag does. So he poked him in the eye. So now he tries to help Cole to his feet. He's kind of laughing it off. He's like, "Here, let me help you." And Cole smacks him right across the face. MJF had Cole in the corner. He charged towards him. Cole pulled the referee in front of him. And MJF asked Cole, "What are you doing?" Cole then grabbed him, pulled him face first into the middle turnbuckle pad. I think it was the middle one. Short time later, Cole returned the favor by gouging MJF's eyes. And MJF whipped Adam Cole into the corner very aggressively. Cole rolled to the floor. MJF played to the crowd, and then he hit a suicide dive, the one that he had teased in the pre-show. He didn't do it on the pre-show, but he did it here. We got the dive. MJF rolled Cole back into the ring. He covered him, only got 2. Then he powerbombed Cole right across the knee, and he ended up getting a 2 count out of that. MJF went to the ropes. He jumped into a super kick. Cole followed up with the Heat Seeker and covered MJF, who put his foot on the bottom rope to break up the pin. So now Adam Cole's getting angry. Adam Cole, at many different points here in this main event, was acting very heelish. And I even made mention earlier when they came out for their entrances on the pre-show, I took note of the fact that MJF came out. He was all happy and jolly, and he's smacking hands with the fans, which is very unlike him. But Adam Cole didn't do that. So now he's acting heelish at different points during this match, and he's yelling at Max, "We may be friends, but I'm better than you." And he's smacking him around. Then he pulled the shirt off of Max's back. He pulls off their tag team shirt, and he throws it out of the ring. And the fans did not like that very much. They started booing. Cole with a sheer drop brainbuster on the ring steps, and MJF's neck, it looked like it snapped right on the edge of the top step. Like he landed in the worst possible spot. And they replayed it again. He was holding his neck at different points for the rest of the match, and it could just be selling on his part. But that, I mean, even at the end of the match, that was a spot that came much earlier on, and he kept holding his neck. I would not at all be surprised if he really got hurt on that spot. And I hope not, because when it comes to the neck, that's something you don't want to be messing with, but that looks sickening. The way, it's like right where his neck was, that's what hit the edge of that step. You know, it's one thing to do a spot like that if you just take the top part of the ring steps off and you just use the flat bottom part. That's not what they did here. So that looked brutal. And he was dead. He was on the floor. He was face down, flat on his stomach, not moving. Cole got back in the ring, and referee Bryce Remsburg, after checking on MJF, he jumps into the ring and he begins to count. And Adam Cole is watching this, and MJF is still not moving, and the ref is up to 5, 6, 7. He is still motionless on the mat. And Adam Cole looks like he's ready to just take a count out win. And I'm watching this and I'm saying, this is so stupid. Because at the very last minute, MJF springs to life and he dives into the ring to break the count. But it made Adam Cole look like an idiot, because why wouldn't he break the count himself? He wants to win the championship. He said that on television leading up to this match. I got to beat you. I have to beat you more than anything in the world. Right? He's trying to wrestle a match where he's going to win the world title. He can't win the world title on a count out. So why didn't he just break the count up himself? I just thought that made him look stupid. But MJF made it back into the ring just in time. Short time later, MJF got control. He cleared off the announce desk outside. And he picked up Adam Cole. He was going to deliver a tombstone pile driver to Adam Cole on top of the announce desk. And I don't know what this desk was made of. I think Excalibur made a comment about how it's like reinforced steel underneath the desk or something. This did not look like your typical, AEW or WWE style announce desk. It looked like it was reinforced. But he was going to go for a tombstone pile driver, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. And he gently put Adam Cole back down. He climbed down from the table, and he had his, like, he's like this. He's all conflicted. He has this pained expression on his face. He doesn't know what to do. He's a big softy. The old MJF would have put him through the table in 2 seconds, but this version of MJF now, the one who has friends and the one who's slapping hands with the fans on his way to the ring, he can't bring himself to pile drive this guy through the table. Well, Adam Cole doesn't feel the same way. He paid a price for it because Cole got a hold of him and he delivered a tombstone instead on top of the desk. The desk did not break. It barely budged. Had no give to it. Again, it was reinforced, so that makes it even worse. Dropped him right on his head. He then rolled MJF back into the ring. He covered him, and MJF kicked out rather, at the count of 2.9. We got a slugfest. Cole won out. MJF came back with another thumb to the eye. Cole came back with the Canadian Destroyer, and in the motion of hitting the Canadian Destroyer, MJF ended up, he kind of popped back up to his feet, and before he could fall down dead, he did manage to get a kick. He got in a kick, a mule kick, to Adam Cole before he finally fell. Both men were down. So they both used the ropes to pull themselves back up into a vertical position. Each man called for the double clothesline, and they crisscrossed. They hit the ropes a few times before hitting a double clothesline on each other. They ended up on top of each other. They're basically covering each other. Referee doesn't know what to do, and so he drops down and decides to count the 3. Now, I have no issue with him counting the fall. I know some people might look at that and go, well, why would the referee count? That's stupid. No, it's not. It makes sense for the referee to count. You start counting, you never know when somebody may lift up a shoulder, right? So he does what the referee is supposed to do. He goes to count the fall. Nobody got their shoulder up, though. So he counted 3, and he called for the bell, and now he's trying to figure out, well, what do we do here? And the fans don't like this finish very much, and you knew this wasn't how the match was going to end. But Bryce Remsburg goes over. Now, this happened at the 20-minute mark. Okay, so we're 20 minutes into this match, and we get a double pin. Bryce Remsburg goes over to Justin Roberts. He has Justin announce that the match is a draw, and that draws massive boos from the Wembley crowd. Adam Cole snatches the mic away, and he demands that MJF give him 5 more minutes. It's like their Eliminator match back in June. Just give me 5 more minutes. And MJF says, no. And everybody boos, and he goes, initially he said no, but then he goes, 5 minutes isn't enough. He says, we're going until we have a winner in fucking Wembley. And the place just explodes. Get that nice wide crowd shot. Everybody's on their feet. They're doing yes chants. And we get some back and forth pin attempts. Then they bump the referee. Here we go. Right, we're just waiting for this. I'm looking for Roddy. Where's Roderick Strong? You know he's coming. So the referee is down. MJF got a look on his face now like the cat that caught the canary. He rolls out to the floor. He grabs a chair. The two of them take turns tossing the chair to each other because they're trying to do the Eddie Guerrero spot. So finally, Cole drops to the mat. MJF is standing there with the chair. The referee's still down, though. And so MJF just shrugs his shoulders, wraps the chair around his own head, and lays down. Now Bryce Remsburg, of course, gets to his feet. And plan didn't work for either one of them. MJF got the Heat Seeker DDT. He covered Cole, but he kicked out. Both men ended up on the apron. Cole hit a straightjacket German suplex. MJF rolled to the floor. And then Cole, once MJF made it back to his feet, jumped off the apron. He was going to go for the Panama Sunrise, and he nails it on the floor. Grabs MJF. He rolls him back inside. He covers him, but again, MJF kicks out. Cole went for another Panama Sunrise. MJF, though, pulled the referee in the line of fire, which led to Adam Cole giving Bryce Remsburg a Panama Sunrise, our second ref bump of the match. Down goes Bryce. And Cole has this shocked look on his face. He's all remorseful. Can't believe it. MJF reaches into his trunks and he pulls out the Dynamite Diamond Ring. We have seen him win many matches over the last few years with the Diamond Ring. He's about to use it again when he gets this pained look on his face. he's having second thoughts. He doesn't know what to do. He's conflicted. And ultimately, he decides against using the ring after all. The only thing missing from this was Bobby Heenan on commentary shouting, do the right thing, use the ring. Right? Little WrestleMania 8 call back there when Piper went to go use the ring bell on Bret Hart, and of course he decided not to. And Bobby's like, well, what the hell? Ring the bell. What the hell? Use the bell. Had he used the bell, he might have won. In the end, it cost him. So he decides not to use the ring. Now Roderick Strong shows up. Here he is. This is what I've been waiting for. How is this going to play out? Roderick Strong gets up on the apron. Actually, he gets in the ring behind MJF. When MJF turns around, Roddy kicks him in the balls. Adam Cole turns. He sees Roddy outside. He's like, what are you doing here? Roddy is telling him to, finish this guy off. So Cole goes to the ropes. He hits MJF with the Panama Sunrise. Then he drops the knee pad, hits the ropes, lowers the boom right to the back of the head. It took forever for Bryce Remsburg to crawl over, and then it took forever for him to make the count. We got the old Earl Hebner slow count. But MJF kicked out at 2.9, and the crowd cheered wildly. Roddy threw the AEW World title belt to Adam Cole, and he starts yelling at him. He's telling him to do it. I'm your best friend. Do it. Use the belt. Cole pulled off his tag team shirt, which got boos. Picked up the belt. He was ready to take MJF's head off with it, but you could see that Cole was conflicted. And ultimately, he decided to dump the belt outside. This pissed off Roddy. He stormed to the back. Cole went back to MJF, who caught him with an inside cradle, and he pinned him 1-2-3 to retain the AEW World Championship. We got a roll-up in the main event at Wembley Stadium, the biggest main event in AEW history, and we got a roll-up. In this situation, it actually worked. Again, they were telling a story here in this match, but was it a little underwhelming to see a fucking roll-up be the deciding factor in this main event here in front of 80,000 people? Yes. Yes, it was. But as Taz said, no good deed goes unpunished. He said he did the right thing and he paid the price for it. MJF was still clutching his neck. As I said, he was clutching his neck quite a bit at the end of this match. He crawled over to Adam Cole, who's sitting in the corner, and he can't believe what just happened. Can't believe it. And he crawls over to Cole, and he's trying to console him. And he's like, look, dude, it could have gone either way. I got lucky. These people still love you. It could have gone either way. And he told him, hang on a second. He goes outside, and he grabs the Ring of Honor World Tag Team title. He goes to hand it to Cole, and Cole throws the belt out of the ring. Just throws it aside. And now MJF gets angry. And he starts yelling at him. And he goes, I get it. You never gave a shit about me. He goes, you're a fake piece of shit. He says, admit it. You were never my friend. He goes, all for this? And he grabs the Big Burberry belt. And he's waving it at him. He goes, all for this? And he throws the belt at Adam Cole. And then he turned his back. He goes, here, take it. And then he turns his back on him. And he tells Cole to go ahead and do it. Just get it over with. He wants him to hit him with the belt. He's willing to give himself up and sacrifice himself if that's going to make Adam Cole feel better. Roderick Strong is back now. He jumps up on the ring apron. He's trying to encourage Adam Cole to do it. Go ahead. Hit him with the belt. He's telling him to do it. Cole thought about it. He was bracing himself. He was ready to do it. And then he drops the belt. MJF turns around, all shocked that he didn't do it. And the two of them hugged it out in the center of the ring. And everybody cheered. Because they wanted to see the two of them hug it out. And that is what they did. Adam Cole then raises the arm of MJF in celebration. Confetti rains down upon them. Meanwhile, Roddy himself now is being consoled in the aisle by Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. And that is how they went off the air, with MJF and Adam Cole celebrating, but MJF is still the champion. This was an excellent main event. It was very story-driven. There were ref bumps. There were false finishes. I can see how that might be a turnoff to some people. It was very unlike what you would expect from a typical AEW main event. When I made the comment about the roll-up, in the main event, that's what I was kind of getting at here. it's not unusual to see that type of finish in like a big stadium match, right? We've seen that before. I mean, the Bret Hart Bulldog thing wasn't really a roll up. That was a sunset flip that he countered into a pinfall. So that wasn't like a small package or something like that. Somebody I saw mentioned Savage and Steamboat at WrestleMania 3. That was a body slam into a small package and blew the roof off the place when he got the pin. But for AEW, you usually don't see that kind of finish to a big pay-per-view main event. So in this case, it worked, though, because they're going to keep this story going. Clearly, we're going to get another match between these two at some point. Whether somebody turns on the other one first, we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. This was just the next chapter of the story, of a longer story that Tony Khan is going to drag out for at least a little while longer. Friendship won out in the end is the story of this match. But I thought they worked this match to perfection. They had the fans hanging on to every near fall. Everybody played along. Everybody played their part well, from Bryce Remsburg to Roddy. It just, you know what it reminded me of also, in a way? It reminded me of some of the matches that we got during the Thunderdome era, when there were no fans in the crowd, and we could hear the wrestlers talking, and they were acting sometimes. And Roman Reigns would be talking to his cousin, or he would be talking to his opponent. I remember when they had the initial matches between Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, and I think Jimmy, it was during maybe their Hell in a Cell match. You know, Jimmy was still hurt, but you know, he came out and he was there to save his brother, and they're doing all this melodramatic stuff. I remember Roman Reigns was crying in the ring and tears coming down his face. But we could hear everything that they were saying because we didn't have the fans in the stands, and they had mic'd up the ring so that we could hear what was going on. We got that here in this main event, only you had 80,000 people in the stands. But we could still hear everything that was going on. They were telling a story. And I think it just worked to perfection. This is the best story that Tony Khan has right now in his company. And the fans have really bought in. They've gone all in. They've gone all in on this story. And I can understand Tony Khan not wanting to kill his top angle, at least not yet. He wants to keep these two together. These two work. They sell. People are buying into it. And he doesn't want that to come to an end just yet. So he's going to milk this and keep this going for as long as he can. They could get months more out of this if they really want to. But they have another pay-per-view coming up in a week. What are they going to do it all out? That becomes the question now. Do you do an Adam Cole MJF rematch? Adam Cole could say, look, you caught me in a moment of weakness. It was a fluky win. I give it to you. You caught me. But I want one more match. And then they run it back in Chicago? Is that what they do? Do they do MJF and CM Punk to crown the undisputed AEW World Champion? Because it seems to me like that's a match that deserves more than just 1 week's worth of build. You could certainly do it in Chicago, Punk's hometown. It would be a great atmosphere. But you still have unresolved issues here with Roderick Strong and that part of the story with Adam Cole. So I just think to do the MJF and Punk match this quickly, you're not getting the most mileage out of it that you can be getting. So I don't know what Tony Khan ultimately is going to decide here. What I do know is that these two were in the main event of the biggest show in AEW history, and they had a lot of pressure on their shoulders. They had 2 matches to wrestle on this show. And they went out there in the main event in a match that only a few weeks ago, there were people who looked at this and said, oh, Adam Cole, he's small, and that's your main event? That's not a main event worthy of a big stadium show in front of 80,000 people. And these 2 guys went out there tonight, and they shut those people up. That's what they did. Because all the validation they needed came from those 80,000 people all around who were cheering their heads off for everything they did in that main event. They didn't sit on their hands. They weren't quiet. They didn't reject this as a main event. They did a masterful job of taking a match that 2 months ago, even I wouldn't have bought into as being the main event on this show. And they made me believe that this deserves to be the main event on this show. And they deserve a lot of credit for that. I think they proved a lot of people wrong. And it was a fine way to cap off overall what I thought was a very strong show. But that main event was the best thing on the entire show. The Twitter poll so far is closing in on almost 80% thumbs up. So that's a pretty good score. 14% thumbs in the middle and about 7.5% thumbs down. So again, with nearly 2,000 votes in so far, you can go ahead at Solomonster on Twitter is the place where you can go to vote. Now, I mentioned before I get to your super chats and all your messages and all your questions, we have got a contest to get through here. I know some of you entered to win a replica AEW World Championship belt. That is what Wrestle Rumble is giving away here this month. And the way that we do things here, he has given me the opportunity to pick a winner at random. And so we use the website random.org. They have a random list function here. It is literally a list randomizer. That's what it is. And I'm going to paste all of the names in the contest into this box here. Again, you can enter in these contests multiple times. So on the very bottom is where he has placed a lot of the double names. But this list is going to be jumbled up. And when I hit the randomize button, the name that is in the number one spot on the list, you win. It's just that simple. It don't get no easier than that. That person will be the winner of the AEW replica belt. So without any further ado, let us go ahead and hit a drum roll, please. And let's find out who the winner of the replica AEW belt is going to be. That person is Keith Doherty. Keith Doherty, with nearly 1,500 entries in the contest, you have won yourself a replica AEW World Championship belt. So there you go. Keith Doherty, you will be hearing from Wrestle Rumble. He will get that belt out to you as soon as possible. Thank you for entering the contest, and thank you to Wrestle Rumble for allowing me the chance to go ahead and be the master of ceremonies, as I have done many times before. I appreciate that very much. All right. We got a lot of messages here to get through. I know you guys have a lot to say about this pay-per-view. Hey, Luis just gifted a channel membership. Luis, that's very kind of you. Thank you, sir. As I scroll all the way back here, we got a whole bunch of them here. And thank you, by the way, to everybody who has been hanging out here on the stream. All 2,500 of you before, 2,500 plus. It's very cool. You guys came out in full force here on this stream. I'll tell you that much. I'll tell you that much. Hey, NYC Demon D, hi. Hello. Everybody say hello to Issa. Issa is with us in the chat. NYC Demon Diva. We have got Base Beerus. Thank you for the pair of super chats. Natural Reborn Thriller. $20 says, hey, just want to drop an early super chat. Can't watch the show. I'll be at work, but I listened to your show yesterday about Hogan. Didn't he also mention something about Mr. T and Michael Jackson as well? Now, he just said back in the 80s and early 90s that he was doing Make-A-Wish stuff with those guys, which is true. They were all doing Make-A-Wish stuff back then. I don't think he was actually saying they were in the same place at once. Although Hogan was with Mr. T, but that was back in the 80s. Ace of Masta, pay-per-view of the year. Those 5 hours just flew by. Jessica Herman, glad Tony Khan did not pull the trigger on an Adam Cole turn yet. Oh, you're assuming that Adam Cole is going to turn? I don't know. Issa thinks that this is a WWE stream. She's ready to acknowledge her tribal chief. You got the wrong show. I would say it's going to be next Saturday, but he's not going to be there either. We may not see him again for a few months. I don't know what you're going to do. She's going to start to go into withdrawals here. She's not going to know what to do with herself. I hope Roman, by the way, the dog is doing well. Andre Israel. inferior to the original, but it was great to see and hear Sting walk out to seek and destroy again. Amazing show, especially that main event. That was very cool. I was hoping, part of me was hoping we'd get a man called Sting. I don't know if he can get the rights to that, though, if WWE owns it. I would have totally marked that. I will tell you right now, I would have marked that if Sting would have come out to Man Called Sting. We get to hear those lyrics again. He does this, he does that. See, that would have been cool. The Undertaker 2024. I swear somebody needs to hire a camera crew and just follow Punk around backstage. You'll have a full season of the best drama on television. Thank you, Solomonster, for the reviews. Best to do it. Thank you, Undertaker 2024. Powerblind just gifted 10 channel memberships. Look at all these new members that are being listed. All these people, some of them aren't even here with us right now live. They're going to come to the stream tomorrow night or next week. They're going to see their green name and they're going to wonder what happened here. And I'm going to get to tell them that Powerblind gifted them a super, well, either Powerblind or Boots. One or the other. Luke Martin, New York, 96. Just left Wembley, great ending, Scissor Me Solo. There you go, Scissor. That must have been cool. I was feeling a little left out, not being a part of the whole stadium experience there, but I get to be here with you guys. Never been to the UK. Never been to the UK. Ross Lawman with the $12 super chat. Just had my first wrestling event and I'm 30, LOL. Better late than never. I didn't use all my beer money. So here, I just realized something. I had the, I just realized. I paused the super chats. I looked down, I saw the little red button. I said, oh, I forgot to unpause them. So now we're gonna get a whole bunch of them here coming through. So if you're waiting to see yours, keep your eye on the screen. They're going to be popping up here. But I was talking about Ross. Ross said, I didn't use all my beer money. So here's some dollars for you. Audio was a bit mid, but overall experience was amazing. Talking about audio at the stadium? Is that what you're talking about? Dev to Dust, what are your top 5 worst matches of all time? I don't know. I can't rank. I'm not going to do a ranking, but I've seen some pretty horrible fucking matches in all the years I've been watching wrestling. Thankfully, none of them were on this show tonight. But if you want one, I'll give you one. Go find that tag team match from Raw back in 2002 with Harvard Chris, Jackie Gata, I think Trish Stratus, and JBL. I think that was the match. Was it Trish and JBL, I think, against Jackie Gata and Harvard Chris? That was pretty fucking terrible. Daniel Guerrero. Another backstage Punk incident. Enough is enough. Well, you keep talking like that, Daniel, you're going to be like Justin G here. You're going to be banned from Collision. You keep talking like that. Ross says it was Joe and Punk 50-50 as the match went on. People were saying Punk had a fight backstage, and by the end of it, it was all Joe. Also met loads of people, and they didn't know of you, so I put that shit right. Well, they should have been paying attention to Chris in the third row, who had a sound-off sign on screen all throughout the paper. And a giant sign with my face on. I noticed that was from when I dressed up as Orange Cassidy on the Jericho cruise. So it might have just been people who thought you were holding up a sign of Orange Cassidy. Sorry. Jabron Khan with the $5. Oh, it's Bully the Clown. Look, everybody. Even Bully the Clown had to be here. He had to be here for this very momentous occasion. From Bryant Becerra. Thank you for the 30. Bryant, Bully the Clown with us here on the All In stream. You like that? You like that, Issa? You better make sure that you behave yourself in this chat, or you may end up banned from Collision as well. This man is a menace. You don't know who he can ban everybody in here for all we know. This guy's crazy. See, look at this, another one. Chris Minor has been banned from Collision. They're not going to have any people left to actually be on Collision at this rate. King Taco, happy for AEW to be able to move the needle at Wembley. No offense to Demi Lovato. Brian, I think we might be able to make that a reality. Where's Steve? Is Steve with us? Steve Mello in the chat. Brian wants to know, can we get banned from Raw? We might be able to work something out. Ross says, 2-hour commute home listening to the Solomonster, will be home in no time. Sorry for the spamming, just got that adrenaline and beer high. No, you don't got to apologize for nothing. Food Hive says, oh, how I have missed the chat. Oh, it's Food Hive. I've been wondering where the hell you've been. I hope you're doing well. It's good to see Food Hive with us. Corey G with the $5. A clusterfuck of an ending in the best possible way. Nice Bray tribute as well. Tyrell Bass. Blackpool Combat Club 0 for 3 and Anarchy in the arena type matches. Shaking my head. That's true. They lost Blood and Guts as well. Chris Perry, I didn't feel like it was as big of as a WrestleMania, but really a good AEW pay-per-view. Happy for them. Gary Koschuk with the $7. Wasn't going to order the show until last night. I decided I would. Don't regret it except for the Anarchy garbage and the disappointing FTR match. All hail Gunther. Yes, indeed. All hail. All hail the Mighty One, who made an appearance earlier. I don't know if he'll show up again, but he did join us a little earlier. Sean McAllister, Punk needs to go. Oh, did I miss one? Someone said I missed one. Which one did I miss? No, we're good. We're Oh, yes, you're right. Thank you. You are correct. I did. I missed Jabron. Okay, Jabron Khan, $5 super chat. You can thank the person in the chat for alerting me that I missed this one. Said, love the pay-per-view. I am astonished by the amount of negativity from some fans online. How can anyone see 80,000 plus for pro wrestling as a negative? Well, there are just some people who don't like AEW. And so anything the company does is going to be negative no matter what. I mean, 80,000 would be an incredible accomplishment for any wrestling promotion of any size. You know, if WWE went into Wembley, WWE, if they ever brought WrestleMania to Wembley Stadium, they could easily put 80,000 plus in Wembley Stadium. And it would be a huge accomplishment. But for AEW to do it when they're still such a young company, and they've never run an event in the UK prior to tonight, is a very impressive thing. Anybody saying otherwise is simply, you know, dealing with an agenda that they have against AEW. But there's nothing about that isn't impressive. You may not, and you may have a different opinion on the show itself. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about the actual act of putting that many people in the stadium. It's an incredible accomplishment. It's something they should be very proud of. I didn't think they'd put that many in there myself when they first announced it. We got Royal World. CM Punk is not a big enough star to justify keeping him with all of the drama that he brings. Feels like every week he is in the news for more drama. Chris Perry, one complaint. How can you be the greatest tag team when they barely tag people in? Tag matches and six-mans all seem like a free-for-all or handicapped. I think they're getting more and more like tag matches in the Lucha promotions. You don't have to tag in. You just come in whenever you want to. Dr. Bropio, Funk, Wyatt, and now Bob Barker within days. They come in threes. It's true. And Pee Wee Herman. Paul Rubens, he passed away only a few weeks ago. Was it even a month? I don't even know if it was a month ago. EA123, who came in with a big super chat the other night, comes in here with a $9.99. Either way, Tony Khan needs to get control of the locker room. When is there not going to be drama in the locker room? Well, I mean, look, if people are allowed to go ahead and start shit with other people and get up in their faces and push and shove or worse, and there are no consequences to that, then this sort of thing is going to continue. When there are no consequences for these things going on, it's just an incentive for people to keep doing it. If he would put his foot down one of these days and say, okay, look, everybody isn't going to get along with each other. You guys don't have to like each other. But when you're here, when you're at work, like, this is our office. And I got a headset on and I got shit that I got to do. So I need to know that there isn't going to be a confrontation at the gorilla position. I need to know that while I'm over here trying to do my thing, I'm not going to have people and agents running up to me to let me know that down the hallway, there's a brawl going on. So start doling out some punishments here. Fines, suspensions, firings, whatever it is, because whatever he's doing or not doing now, clearly it's not having an effect. Hollywood guy. I agree with you, Solo. Just enjoyed the pay-per-view. Not just pay attention to the gossip. It ruins the pay-per-view for me. I give it a bad rating just because of that. Well, I wouldn't do that. What happened backstage has nothing to do with what we saw on TV today. But it is ridiculous that it even happened in the first place. Matthew Scott, thank you for the $6. Ross Lawman. Kid crying on my train because the train isn't green. Future AEW star in the making. Because the train isn't green? What? Why would the train be green? I think the parents need to tell that kid to shut his trap. Matthew Scott, great to be there for. Great crowd and pay-per-view. Fahad. Fahad dropped $226 earlier on in the stream and said he enjoyed the show. Keep up the great work. Fahad, you know what I think about you, brother. All the support that you throw my way. Thank you. That's unbelievable. I want to know more about this green train. Am I missing something here? The ref bump says, not gonna lie, I thought Perry looked dumb as hell bragging about that glass thing while being cut up by that same real glass. Yeah, no, I mean, it does make him look like an idiot. I mean, look, using real glass in the first place makes him an idiot. Don't use real glass. It's completely unnecessary. You're in the middle of getting a push. They just turned you heel, right? You're getting television time. And this idiot wants to use real glass, right? Not too fucking bright. Punk had the right idea, putting him in his place and telling him, look, you're not going to do that. It's stupid. Punk was right about that. There he is again. And Punk, it's like he hears me mentioning his name. He just banned another person from Collision. Who is that? Is that Retro KOH? Now he's banned from Collision. We got ABK. There it is right there. Look at that. $494 super chat. That is just... wow. I'm still speechless. Thank you. Yeah, I was hoping that we would have a good night here and a good stream because we're almost done with the month of August, you know, going out on a high note. We still have Raw tomorrow night, that stream. Dynamite stream on Wednesday to close out the month. So I was hoping we'd have a big night, but I was not expecting that. Jake Finn, trying to help break the solo record. I don't know what record that is, but Jake, it's good to have you. Christopher Smith with a $9.99. FTR are so good. I was surprised they won, but a really fun match in my opinion. I know why they gave Saraya the belt, but I don't agree with it. Anyway, cheers, folks, and happy Sunday. Ocean Edwards. I was at the show today, thoroughly enjoyed. Such a shame to come back home and learn about the backstage drama. Great show. Oz and Glorious was very hyped to see the sound off sign in the crowd. You deserve all the flowers, Solomonster, and I absolutely loved All In. Thank you, Oz. I always get a kick out of that myself. Jose Hitch. Want to give a shout out to Solo and my buddy Sam for turning me on to your podcast. I've been listening ever since Revolution 2022. Keep up the great work, or the good work. Great work, good mic work. Jose, thank you. Tuxedo T Servo, unlike Jack Perry, my band didn't come with a chokeout like Jack. Reportedly. Yes, reportedly. Allegedly. We still don't have all the details yet. Mr. LH, been a member for 15 months. Let's go Solo. £2, he says. 15 months, that's awesome. I see we got some yellow, we got some gold skulls, we got some red skulls in the chat. That's why you got to try to make sure that membership don't lapse. If it lapses, you got to start all over again. We got some members in here that have been here for a while. ABK dropped another $100 Super Chat 101. ABK is the king. I bestow the crown upon you. I acknowledge you. Fuck Roman Reigns. Don't tell Issa I said that, but fuck Roman Reigns. I acknowledge ABK. Kalios with the 6 says All In was the most fun I ever had in my life. Singing Judas to the matches, the atmosphere, meeting Botchamania, and Nigel McGuinness. So damn fun. Yeah, I forgot what WrestleMania it was, but I got to meet up with Matthew. I interviewed Matthew once on the podcast, on the YouTube channel. Audio only. This was many years ago, but then we finally got to link up at one of the WrestleManias. We had Solomonster and Botchamania at one of the WrestleManias. Game Mode Retro, Solomonster, you are the real #legend. I am the one and only. Stuart Brody, thank you. ABK with another 50 says hello. Hello, ABK. Dropping a Gunther bomb on me. Brandon McNeil, tons of love to all of you. Follow the buzzards. Power Spying Games, on my way back home. I enjoyed myself today, 8 out of 10. I'm banned from SmackDown now. Is that what Issa said? I'm banned from SmackDown? I don't know, what am I going to do now? How am I going to get my LA Knight fix if I'm banned from SmackDown? I'll have to put on my orange Cassidy disguise.
It's Samoa Bro.
It's Samoa Bro. Thank you, David Ruiz. Corey Blake, hey Solomonster, appreciate you always. I guess it's safe to say to add Jack Perry among the list to be banned from Collision. Well, I mean, look, he's an elite guy, so I'm surprised he was on that show in the first place. Apparently, he's very tight with the elite. Bender McSimpson, I don't mind MJF as a babyface, but this version is lame. The double clothesline and kangaroo kicks and pandering to the crowd is too goofy for him. I hope he ends up turning on Cole. Hulkling 93, very entertaining show. I feel you on the Stadium Stampede. The irony of the pile driver on the step spot is commentary sells it accordingly, but you cut to Trent, and he is already crawling. 27-27, there's a reason Jack's lower mid-card. Punk was right. Daniel Malcolm, thank you, Solo. If I'm being fully transparent, been having some suicidal thoughts lately, but things like the sound off keep me going. Well, I don't like hearing that. I don't want to hear any more of that. You definitely have a whole community of people here who enjoy you being a part of it. You know you always have people to talk to, so let's not hear any more of that from now on. We got M-Sun. Julia took it in the clam bag. I think he says yam bag, not clam bag. Yeah, No Cap. I miss No Cap. No Cap said, I get giving Saraya a win in her country, but damn, Shida just won the title. AEW is playing hot potato with the women's title. Corey Blake said, with the 1992, thank you, Corey, Tony Khan needs to start being a boss and clean up the backstage BS that's been taking place. Say what you want about Vince McMahon, but no way this ongoing drama would be taking place under his watch. No, it wouldn't. Not at all. And if somebody tried that shit, it would have been nipped in the bud a long time ago. Anti-M Bishop, greetings. I know it's been a long time. Great pay-per-view, an all-timer. Loving the sound-offs lately. All Out took shape during the scrum and just really enjoyed this show. It was a long week. We made it. Hashtag watch Hog. That's right. Make sure you get your dose of House of Glory. Pablo III. Do you think AEW can do a stadium show here in the U.S. in 2025? Well, 2025 is 2 years from now. Yes, I do. I think they could do a stadium show in the U.S. in 2024. 2025, they definitely can. Samoan fan, after yesterday's podcast, you should take 2 to 3 Hogan stories on Rogan's show and talk about them on the Sound Off. Weeks worth of funny content. Oh, I can get endless content out of that. Jacob Donnelly, it's my 25th birthday, so I will be out and will miss your stream, but still always here to donate. Well, I mean, Jacob, you're here on the stream. This was only, 24 minutes ago, so you must be here. But Jacob, happy birthday, man. Happy 25th. Justin G, getting banned from Collision to thank our awesome mods for keeping it civil. Great show, great review. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Justin. Amir, with the $2 says, do you think Punk and Jungle Boy news is a work? I do not know. Dorian Moore, have you seen the UPW game? It looks better than AEW. I don't know what that is. UPW game? Brian Becerra, again, thank you for that 30. Chris Miner with the 7. I'm looking forward to going to a Collision someday. I hope CM Punk doesn't ban me. Great show tonight. Great pick-me-up after a sad weekend. Daniel Malcolm, just wanted to give a huge thank you to everyone. I left for another live podcast, came back, and was dumbfounded by all the support. Love you all. I told you, we got a good community of people here. Amir says, Tony Khan announced a new pay-per-view in October called Wrestle Dream, which will feature New Japan talent. What do you book as the main event? Well, you're catching me with this. This is the first I'm hearing about this. So apparently, I did hear reports that they were going to be announcing more pay-per-views. They're going to be expanding their pay-per-view calendar. I did not know they were making the announcement today, though. So evidently, there is a new show coming in October called Wrestle Dream. I hope it's not my birthday weekend. What is the did he announce a date for that show? I'm curious what the date is. I mean the main event. I don't know, man. I mean, it's something with Okada. I mean, it'd be easy to say Omega and Ospreay, but I would think they're saving that for the Tokyo Dome. So I mean, as far as New Japan talent on the show, what would I want the main event to be? I would love to see another Omega Okada match. Selfishly. Give me that. Give me Omega Okada. I'd be a happy guy. October 1st. Okay, and I assume that's a Sunday. October 1st in Seattle. Okay, is that a Sunday? But that's what my vote would go for. Omega Okada, if I had to pick something. Joel Naranjo, thank you for the $5. Joseph Brooks, cherish, keep, borrow, sell on which other promotions had the best flagship shows. Their WrestleManias. WCW Starrcade, ECW November to Remember, TNA's Bound for Glory, AEW All In. Well, you can't call All In their flagship show because they only had one. So I can't say All In. I would go with Starcade. I'd probably go Starcade. Maybe Starcade, Bound for Glory, November to Remember, and then All In. Just because All In has not yet been established enough under the AEW banner. Joel says, should AEW consider All In their WrestleMania going forward? Yeah, I mean, look, if they're going to be in a big stadium, if they're going to be in Wembley every year, putting tens of thousands of people in there, then that's their WrestleMania. Bob the Builder, I don't know how NWA 75 will top this. Oh, that's right. I forgot. I think tonight is night 2. I believe in the main event, Tyrus is putting his career on the line. Never in my life did I think I would root for EC3 this much, but I think tonight we are all EC3 fans, as I believe Tyrus is putting his NWA title and his career on the line if he does not win. Amir says, Punk grabbing Jack Perry by the throat as Tony Khan stands back in the hallway chanting, CM Punk, CM Punk. That's right. He'll be at the gorilla position going, CM Punk, CM Punk. Choke that little prick out, CM Punk. He's a fan. He's a fan. Apparently. Retro KOH, Tony needs to hold a brawl for all. It would be terrible television, but maybe a few man-children would get some sense knocked into them. You know what? That might be the best idea I ever heard you suggest here on the stream. If ever there was a company that could use a fucking brawl for all, it is AEW. It would be funny, though, if we saw CM Punk get knocked out in the first round. He probably would get knocked out in the first match. Andre Israel, what are the funniest Hogan lies you have ever heard? Brother, you just need to listen to the podcast. I talk about them quite a bit. You can find them on there. I mean, I don't know. There's been so many of them. It's hard to narrow it down to just one. I've talked about them so much. I do enjoy the time travel between Japan and the U.S. The years where he's worked 400 days. Naughty Delicious says AEW has done a great job tonight with All In. AEW has officially created their own version of Wrestle Kingdom. Not Mania, Kingdom. Ruben, wish you were. I guess wish you were here, he means. It was wild in the stadium. Hopefully you saw your sign at the show. What was your favorite match? I am undecided. I would go with the main event. And I did see the sign, yes. How did he work over 400 days? Well, you see, in his infinite wisdom, because of the time zone difference, that's how he worked 400 days one day. Don't ask me. That's just what he claimed. David Ruiz. Love the pay-per-view. I regret not having the courage to go alone this year. Nobody around me likes wrestling. At least there's another chance next year. Always a pleasure to leave a super chat when I have the chance. I am from Spain. So David, thank you for the 21. Very cool to hear from my fans all over the world. And, I agree. I had a lot of fun watching the pay-per-view. Ross says, Fahad and ABK, I bought your house solo. Your fans are all legends, and yes, that makes me one as well. Where's the green train emoji? Well, we got the green GWO emojis in the chat. Let me see them from all of our channel members. Throw them up. Lakers Pats, Tyrus, EC3 is NWA's Rock Austin. I don't drink, by the way. It's a good thing you put that in there because I was about to say you may have a problem. The Yatagaratsu. So then I get banned from Collision. I'm not good enough to call Collision? Collision? I'm not good enough to call Collision? That's right, Joey. You're not good enough. Naughty Delicious, if Jack Perry wants to do his ideas, keep it on Dynamite and Rampage. He ain't winning an argument with CM Punk. White chocolate. What the hell does that mean? Garrett Blaine, you have been my favorite wrestling YouTuber listening over 6 years now. Thank you very much. Keep up the great work. Can't wait to listen to the full review on the podcast tomorrow at work. Well, the podcast went up a day early So this is the review. This is the full review. It don't get more full than this, going through every segment on the show. The audio, though, will be up tomorrow, if that's what you mean. But for those who may have missed it, the regular Sunday podcast went up a day early. So if you want episode 823, which had predictions for this show, but had a lot of other news as well, it's a good one, including the Hogan stuff. So definitely go check that out. Dr. Bropio, bro, GWO began as a running joke, and then it grew into something great, bro. And then all of a sudden, people get into fights and getting banned, bro. And I was like, bro, what is this BS, bro? Thank you, Dr. Bropio. Retro KOH, Tyrus, more like Retyrus. Very good. Boots, or Boney. I still got boots on the brain. Boney. What's your thoughts on top baby faces tapping, not just visual? I think of Angle and Michaels at WrestleMania 21, and I wish it happened more. I do too. I think the way the WWE has traditionally booked their baby faces, especially their top baby faces, they don't like to have them tapping out. But I think having the baby faces tap out every now and then is... I think it's important to do that. I think it really helps, whether they're wrestling another baby face or a heel. I think it just elevates them and helps put those people over that much more, because it is something that we so seldomly see. So you don't want to abuse it, but I think it's something that we probably should see a little more often. Anti-N Bishop UPW video game is called Ultra Pro Wrestling. Check them out on YouTube. I will have to do that. I've never heard of that before. Winston Slip. AEW should start selling oatmeal cookies. GWO for life. Only if they have Sue. Bake them. Soccer J75. I have nothing but respect for Jim Ross, but now is the time for him to retire. He is a shadow of his former self and is starting to become embarrassing. Dorian Moore, UPW is crossed between No Mercy and Revenge. I did enjoy WCW NWO Revenge back in the day. EJ Slemp, if Jack Perry wants to use real glass, he can do it in front of 50 people against Joey Janela in GCW. Not at Wembley in front of 81,000. They shouldn't be doing it in front of 50 people on a Joey Janela show either. But I just think, again, it's just incredibly stupid. Especially when you can use gimmicked stuff. And I doubt most people would even know the difference. It's just very, very dumb. And EJ says, which company do you think runs Estadio Azteca in Mexico City first? I can see an AEW AAA show there in the next few years. Do you agree? Yeah, more so AEW than WWE. I don't see, WWE doing that. But I could definitely see AEW doing something. Although I don't know... The only thing is they have the relationship with New Japan. And is it CMLL that New Japan has the working relationship with? It might be CMLL. If that's the case, there could be political reasons why AEW would not do that. Because CMLL and AAA do not like each other at all. So politically, that may not be possible. Well, I think I have gotten to all your messages here. That's some pretty incredible support from you guys. Thank you very much. By the way, we are up to almost 1,000 likes. Can we do that before we get out of here? Can we actually get to 1,000 likes? Is that possible? Do you guys have it in you? Is there enough gas left in the tank to get us to 1K even before I get out of here live? That would be pretty cool. All right, let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
Oh, yeah. It is a Wembley size edition of Be the Booker. I don't know what that means. I just thought it sounded cool. But let's be the booker and get out of here. Let's go ahead and book ourselves some random matches. That's what this little segment is all about. Just a fun little thing. Makes you wonder what these matches might have looked like if they never happened before. So let's go ahead and do the deal. And we begin with Karrion Kross who has not had the most stellar of runs since his return to WWE. But maybe he can have a better go at it here on Be the Booker. Let's get him in the ring with somebody big. Let's get him in the ring with a big name. Big name for Karrion Kross. Damian Priest against Karrion Kross. Two big guys. Two big guys button heads. I think that could be a pretty good match. Could be a feud one day in WWE. Once Damian Priest goes babyface and leaves the Judgment Day, which will eventually happen, that could very well end up being a match that we see eventually. Over on the women's side, we begin with Sasha Banks. How appropriate. Pop it up in the crowd tonight. Pop it up and Be the Booker. Mercedes herself. Sasha Banks gonna go 1-on-1 with NYC Demon Diva. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Although that would be a very interesting match. Sasha Banks gonna take on sensational Sherry Martel. You know that Sasha would have loved to get in the ring with Sherry. That would have been a pretty incredible match. I don't know what the hell she's wearing here. This is from, I think, the Royal Rumble in 91, I believe. She looks like Willow. It looks like Jeff Hardy is Willow. Willow. Look at this. She was Willow before Jeff Hardy ever was. Sherry and Sasha would have been a fucking great match. Now I'm pissed we never got the chance to see it. And finally here, let's book ourselves a tag team match. How wild can we get? We got Greg the Hammer Valentine and Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Greg the Hammer Valentine, I have said before, in his older age, looks more and more like the woman from Don't Throw Mama from the Train and the Goonies. What was her name? The Dream Team. Brutus Beefcake and Greg Valentine. Whoops, wrong button. There we go. They're going to be taking on Shawn Michaels and Triple H of D-Generation X. DX and the Dream Team in Be the Booker. A younger Greg Valentine in there with Shawn Michaels or Triple H. You know, even as a singles match, that would have been pretty good. All right, we went 3 for 3. I like it. That's what I like to see on a big stream like this. Clean sweep. 3 for 3, the way it should be. Fucking A. Daniel Malcolm gets the final super chat, it looks like. I apologize for putting that in the chat. Much love to everyone. Also, I hope one day to be a bigger donator, but after today, a larger task than I thought. Yeah, ABK kind of came in there and just blew the whole deal up. But Daniel, look again, man. Whatever's going on, you always got a family here. You know that. So thank you very much. And Dr. Bropio, that was our third good women's match in Be the Booker since the beginning of July. Let that sink in. That's not a good thing. How many Be the Bookers have we had since the beginning of July? A lot more than 3. We got to get that batting average up. By the way, we hit 1,000 likes. You guys did it. So thank you for that. 1,000 likes live, man. Well over 100 gifted memberships and super chats, man. You guys have blown me away. We've almost gone a full 3 hours on this stream. I was going to have dinner. Maybe, possibly, I could still have dinner. Maybe not. Look, guys, you guys have put a smile on my face. So between the sign in the crowd tonight on what was a very landmark show for AEW now, we will always be part of the show, even though we couldn't be there live. And all your support here, thank you very much. This has been a very busy weekend, and it's not over yet. Tomorrow I will be streaming yet again. It will be my 5th, I believe, straight day of content. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. 5th or 6th day. 5th day, I guess. So I'll be live again for Raw. Quite the come down, I know, from Wembley. But we'll be live after Raw tomorrow night. And then again for Dynamite on Wednesday. Let's close out the month of August strong. Got 2 more live streams left. Holy shit, Boots just dropped another 20. Boots just dropped, I believe that makes 120. Is that 100 or 120? Maybe it's 100. 100 plus, it is 120. 120 gifted fucking memberships. Do you believe this guy? This guy has gone nuts. Oh, yes, Issa, that's right. Next week, oh boy. Next weekend. Oh, God. We have 2 pay-per-views next weekend, Saturday and Sunday. We got Payback and we got All Out. We got another AEW pay-per-view coming up. And somewhere in there, next Sunday, there will be a podcast as well. That'll be episode 824. So, fuck me. But hey, this is what we do, right? We're going to end August strong and we're going to start September off strong. And I expect all of you to be back here with me. Boots, yeah, I think Boots has eclipsed Silver Tower. Silver Tower has contributed many memberships as well, but 120 is the brand new record for one stream. Boots now owns the record. 120. Holy shit. Be well, stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your night. And I will see you back here live again for the Raw stream to do it all over again tomorrow night. Until then, thank you again. Take care, guys.